Hello, and welcome to IBM TV, Medical Friday. And I am your host, Kimberly Calhoun. And with us today, we have from the Power Tower of Washington, D.C., Bill Trezevant.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good afternoon and good evening to people. We also have all the way from Canada, Sasha.
Hello.
Good morning, Sasha. And all the way from Hong Kong, our beloved Rakesh. And happy birthday, Rakesh.
Hello. Thank you so much.
And welcome this morning. But anyway, today is going to be a wonderful day full of some great medical doctors who beam in and out occasionally from all over the world to share with us some great advice. We talk, about the science of what's going on, not just with COVID, but some other great medical resource advice that we need in this crisis and times, because there's just so many other things happening, not just COVID. But before we get started, let's take a look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. with our election.
From IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. There are 38 days and some long nights left until the election. Biden is off the campaign trail as he prepares for the first presidential debate on Tuesday. But appealing to middle America, Biden, who spoke in Wisconsin, said, quote, "I've dealt with guys like Donald Trump my whole life who would look down on us because we didn't have a lot of money or your parents didn't go to college. Guys who think they're better than you, guys who inherit everything they've ever gotten in their life and squander it. The truth is, he never really respected us," end quote. Trump on Thursday signed an executive order on a range of issues, including protecting people with pre-existing medical conditions from insurance discrimination. Critics assert that this latest executive order will have little impact given the protections are already contained in the Obama-era health law Trump is asking the Supreme Court to overturn. Trump was booed on Thursday as he paid respects to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Trump stood silently at the top of the steps of the court while the crowd chanted below him, "Vote him out." Trump walked back into the courtroom as the chants grew louder. Democratic lawyers are getting ready to challenge any election shenanigans Trump may pull, including swapping electors chosen by voters with electors selected by Republican-controlled legislators. Democrats are running a separate effort to try to block any state recounts like Florida's in 2000 from being cut short by the Supreme Court. On the other side, the Trump campaign has indicated that it will litigate, including suing in key states that have changed election laws to allow for an extended time to vote or count ballots. Separately, Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced a new $2.4 trillion COVID-19 relief proposal. While Congress adjourns at the end of next week through the election, lawmakers could be called back to vote on a deal. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin said he wants to restart talks. In other news, angry restaurant and bar owners are demonstrating in Marseille, France, to challenge a French government order to close all public venues as of Saturday to battle resurgent virus infections. They argue that the central government in Paris is unfairly singling out Marseille for the toughest virus measures in the nation. India reported another 86,052 coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours, but this is a declining trend with recoveries exceeding new cases this week. In the U.S., an analysis published by Citigroup this week states that the lingering racial inequality has cost the economy up to $16 trillion over the past 20 years. Quote, "The 400 years of enslavement of Black populations in the Americas has residual effects that persist to this day, despite tomes of legislation providing equal access to various aspects of American life under the law," end quote. Among the findings, white families have 8 times more wealth than Black households. The U.S. homeownership rate among whites is nearly 80%, compared with only 47% for Blacks. And the total wealth held by U.S. billionaires, some $3.5 trillion, is equal to 75% of all Black wealth combined. In a sign of the times, a bottled water entrepreneur known as the Lone Wolf has replaced Alibaba's Jack Ma as China's richest person after his fortune tripled. The fortune of Zhang Shanshan, who owns China's largest bottled water company, Nongfu Spring, has soared to $58.7 billion. Sales have boomed because the country's tap water is generally considered unsafe for drinking. Also in a sign of the times, Berkeley, California has a new law. The Healthy Checkout Ordinance requires stores to sell at least 25 feet of healthy items within a 3-foot radius of the registers. The ordinance will affect Whole Foods, CVS, Walgreens, and Safeway. So there you have it. Water sells and healthy food is the law of the land. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins is over 202,819 American souls lost and 983,417 global souls lost, again with no end in sight. That is your report for this day, September 25th, 2020, from IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.
Wow, that is a pretty impactful statements coming from both presidential candidates there.
It really is. I mean, just generally speaking, we are in the midst of the mud fight. You know, with hurricanes, they talk about the eye of the storm. We're dead square in it. We've got 39 days left, and the parties have chosen their sides. Trump is questioning the election. Biden is appealing to the working class, and everybody's energized. So.
Well, I think rather than questioning the election, pushing really hard, wasting our money to put in another Supreme Justice, we would be better. The president would be better off finding solutions for us, calming our nation, putting in place some things, working for the people, rather than trying to push for something that we might not even be able to afford. I mean, we're even still in that position of, can we still afford our government, and is the government going to close down, right, Bill?
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct, Kimberly. And on that point, it's interesting that Trump has been in office now for over 3.5 years, and during that time, our national debt has just completely soared. It's one of the things that he had pledged and campaigned on reducing. But now you're right, because of the pandemic and because of fiscal mismanagement, America's liability. Asset liability balance sheet is really, really dangerously positioned.
You know, though, I'm kind of disappointed in the people. I try not to get too involved in this, but I'm a little bit disappointed when somebody's up there speaking on behalf of the passing of someone. You should not move your political agenda there and boo the person. You should listen and pay respects to what's being said about the deceased. And I'm a little disappointed in all of that. That's not good manners.
You're absolutely right about that. Generally speaking, I guess the way to think about just to kind of wrap our heads around it, is that we have to figure out what kind of context we're in. And when we have a president that has shattered so many norms and makes almost the unthinkable reasonable, and we just have to deal with it every day, it in some respects impacts and is a form of leadership, and it's leading, I think, our nation to the wrong place, such that we have the chance at when you're trying to pay respects to the fallen Supreme Court justice. But you're absolutely right. There needs to be, at least as I see it, and this is only my opinion, a sense of center, moral, balance, respect, dignity, and civility. But it starts at the top, Kimberly.
Well, you know what? You could not have said that more eloquently, that they're just following our leader's example, which is disappointing that the people would choose to do that as opposed to just take it upon themselves to pay decent respects. But, you know, if your leadership doesn't pay decent respects, I guess the people are not going to, the followers won't. But let's talk about some happier things.
Exactly, because what I actually, for our audience, we are an optimistic program, and I'm optimistic every day because I wake up, the sun is out, and there may be challenges out there, and we may be in the midst of a mudslinging contest. But remember, it only happens once every 4 years, and so what we do these 39 days, and then we'll deal with everything else, and then maybe we can begin to march forward. But for good news, bottled water, and healthy foods in stores.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So I know one of the most wealthiest people I've met before I started the TV show with Nick. He owned Bottled Water Springs, right? And before it was Bottled Water Springs, it was a swamp land. He thought he was sold swamp land. He didn't know what to do with it. And somebody said, "Why don't you bottle that water?" And he did. It was the greatest story ever. So
who knew?
Water. So Jack has stepped down from the richest.
Jack has fallen. Well, he's now the second richest man in China because he's been.
Poor guy.
I know he only has 56 billion, but the lone wolf has 58 billion. But it's from water. I mean, imagine that, just bottled water in China, and he's amassed $58 billion. So it's a sign.
Alcohol doesn't make that much money.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. Although, but perhaps thankfully. But yes, bottled water, and then Berkeley, California, with their new ordinance called the Healthy Checkout. And so within 25 feet of the register, there have to be nothing but healthy items. No candy. No potato chips, no mints, none of that stuff that you normally see. I was wondering that perhaps maybe the law didn't go far enough, because I was thinking that maybe we ought to move the tabloid papers to another section, Oh,
no. That's my favorite thing to do.
So while you're waiting in line, do you pick it up?
I like to read the headlines of every one of them. Well, because I'm usually not the one at the check, I'm just standing there. So, that's my favorite thing to do, is to read all of the tabloids and get caught up with the frontline news, right?
You know what's so funny about that? So from time to time, and this is absolutely true. So, I'll be walking out, I'll come from an appointment or something, and I've got the bow tie and the suit on, and I'm in the checkout lane. And the first thing I do is I pick up the Inquirer, and I'm going to the page just to see the spread. And everybody's like looking at me like, shouldn't you be reading something else? And I'm like, I kind of enjoy this. I didn't know that Michael Jackson was an alien. I want to see, Inquirer want to know. But
definitely knows how to sell. But let's bring in some of our guests today, our panelists who join us continuously. Rakesh from Hong Kong. Rakesh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. And then we have Sasha from Canada.
Sasha, hello.
Hello.
Hello. And what are your views? We'll start with Sasha. What are your views on what is happening at the election here in the U.S.?
Well, basically, I was surprised to read in the morning. I have a briefs from CNBC, which is the biggest financial news network. And what it says that yesterday, nearly 500 generals, admirals, and former national security officials from both parties endorsed former Vice President Joe Biden on Thursday and blasted President Donald Trump as not equal to the challenges of the job in a letter released yesterday. That's quite important statement, I would say, because we are talking about a military and intel elite, which doesn't mince words, and that were very eloquently expressed their opinion that, of course, they support Biden, but most importantly, Trump is not fit for the job. And that statement alone just does so many things. So people who probably haven't formed their mind yet, or undecided, or swing voters and so on, probably a document like this will help to make up their mind in the right direction, I hope.
Wow, that's a big statement. Bill, what is your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, actually, you're absolutely right, Sasha. It was quite stunning because it was 489 senior administration, national military figures, going back all the way to George Herbert Walker Bush, 41. And,
yes,
yes, and so, and it was almost like a unified state from every aspect of the military leadership here in the United States, coming down on one side. Now, I suspect that a number of them were motivated by past actions of Trump during his 3.5 years in office, the way he's treated the military with their funds and everything else. And I suspect, most significantly, if we can all recall, it seems like forever ago, but it was mere moments ago that when it was discovered and reported that Russia had put out bounties on American soldiers on the battlefield, and Trump did nothing in response. And that, I think, really woke up a number of people in the military, and certainly enraged families around the globe. But you're absolutely right, Sasha. A singular institution in any society, being the military, coming out with a forceful, unified statement is indeed seismic.
Yeah, unfortunately, Trump has a lot of human flaws, like complete disregard for other people. He is a very selfish, narcissistic person, and that type of people cannot be leaders of such a great nation as the United States. It's just so much. You know what? I'll tell you. I'm following the betting site Bet365. I'm doing bets on sports like soccer, tennis, basketball, and hockey. And they have odds now on U.S. elections. And remember, you know, when we are talking among ourselves, so you say you're pro-Trump, another one is against Trump, or so. This is all small talk. When people put money on the outcome, that means something. And Bet365 has to open a line of bets. So if they are wrong with their bets, they are going to lose money.
Okay.
So they're trying not to be wrong.
Let me ask you, Sasha, what is the betting line on Trump and Biden? What are the bettors saying?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly.
Okay.
What it is right now. First, they have several bets. They even have bets on the each state, if you'd like. However, the very important point is number one bet to win popular vote. So it's not electoral; it's just a popular vote. You'll laugh. On Joe Biden to win a popular vote, the bets. The offer is only 1.16, which means if you will put $100, you will win only $16. That's it. Okay. However, if you will put on Donald Trump to win popular vote, guess what? You put $100, you'll be paid $450. Not $16, but $450.
Okay, so what you're saying is that on the popular vote, Donald Trump is the long shot, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's not a long shot. It's a completely lost case, no chances whatsoever.
Okay,
just lost chances. Because betting side will never, ever pay 4.5 odds for something that may still happen. Obviously, it's not going to happen. However, it's much different picture on U.S. presidential election.
Okay.
Here for Joe Biden, you have odds 1.83. So you put $100, you get back 183. However, on Donald Trump, if you put the same $100, the odds are 2.0. So if you put $100, you will get back $200. So Joe Biden is a slight favorite to win a presidency, but it's very different picture from a popular vote.
Wow, that's a tough one to vote on or bet on. But and I would hate to bet against the man I want to win. So that's interesting. Rakesh, what are your thoughts on our political bantering that's going on here, and how is it impacting where you're living today and going tomorrow?
In terms of Hong Kong, I think it doesn't make a difference. I don't think it's the brand image of Hong Kong is already dissolved. In terms of New Zealand, I think the point of view is that the stronger America gets, economically, whoever makes America stronger economically it's good for New Zealand because they will have another market. Traditionally, New Zealand exports to Australia and China, and to a lesser extent Russia, but if they have not been able to do too much in the American market. It's as far as milk and beef is concerned. I think they would be looking to make greater inroads into the American market, and if that does well, they would be very interested in that. It's purely economics that I can see. In terms of actual left versus right, New Zealand has currently a left-leaning government. I think that government is popular, but there is now an increasing challenge from the right. They have chosen a woman leader who is quite pugnacious in terms of her attitude, and that has shown some results. The gap in the lead has reduced. It hasn't disappeared, but it's reduced.
I agree with you. She is becoming a powerful voice. And look who we have visiting us today on Medical Friday. Welcome, Dr. Dhawan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaste.
Please correct me if I mispronounce your name. I'm horrible with pronouncing names, but I work on it.
That's all right. No?
Dr. Bill Trezevant, he's put up with me, but he knows my Texas accent. So, but anyway, how are you doing today? This is evening.
Good. Yeah, this is evening time for us, and doing very well.
So,
what about all of you?
We're doing great. So what I want to share with you, I've taken some of your advice from last week for my eyes, and it has made some difference. Now, I have not put it full force into 100% practice because that's a huge discipline to reset.
Right.
But it is relieving the pressure behind my eyes, and so I thank you for that.
So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much. Please follow it slightly more religiously.
I will.
Yes.
I will. It's hard when you're working all day in front of a screen, but I'm learning little tricks so that when we move to different people, I close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, get in those practices, because I will tell you, I was getting scared with what was going on with my headaches and eyes and a pressure. But what the thing was it was in plain sight. The problem was right there.
Right. Well, it happens very often sometimes. That the problem is they're big. The solution is very simple and visible, but very difficult to follow.
That is correct. So some of the things that you are also sharing with us were some of the precautions that we should be taking during the time of wearing a mask. And I kind of want to reiterate on that, because I don't think people are always listening as much. And it's always good to refresh these things for people, these little checklists. But, wearing the glasses, making sure you wear these properly and tape them. And I'd like for you to share a little bit about that, and then give us some more insight on things we could be doing to exercise our eyes.
Right. So first of all, regarding COVID, I would say that until or unless we have a vaccine out, and which is reliable, and we get ourselves vaccinated, we must take precautions, because precaution is the only thing that can save us. We cannot rely on our immunity, because every body responds very differently to the virus infection. How would your body respond? You cannot predict that. So it's better to take precautions and not get infected. For that, 3 things need to be done. One is protect your nose and mouth by wearing a proper mask. And the medical people or the healthcare workers or people at higher risk should wear N95 mask. Others can wear a normal surgical mask or a 3-layered cloth mask. You should also protect your eyes by wearing glasses. If you already have a spectacle prescription glasses, that's perfectly fine. If you do not have, just wear some plain glasses. Third is use hand sanitation. Wash your hands when you're at home, or use hand sanitizer, alcohol-based hand sanitizer when you're outside, if you happen to touch a surface or thing which is unfamiliar to you. When you meet strangers, meet them with mask on. At home, you need not take all these precautions because people are familiar to you. But the moment you step out of the house, mask, glasses, and say a portable hand sanitizer should be an important part of what you carry with you.
Oh,
So
that
this
is
is
Okay.
and again, it's always good to just refresh what we need to be doing every day, because they're simple and they're easy to forget, right? To wash our hands, and there's a right way of doing it, right? Sanitize. Rakesh has a kit that he takes when they go out places that has a mask, but the glasses, this is very important because people don't realize, from what I've been learning, COVID can actually enter through the eye, correct?
Correct. It can, yes. Theoretically, it can. Some studies have also shown that possibly it can. So let us play it safe, let us err on the safer side and wear glasses also.
Yes.
That's
okay.
Yes.
And Doctor, I have a question, because we are in that phase of this, whereas before we were just completely defenseless. But now we're a little farther along with all these vaccine developments that are currently underway. And so right now, for the vast majority of people that have not contracted it, wearing the mask and taking these safety precautions right now really will serve as the bridge until we get to a vaccine, so that the majority of them can, in fact, avoid ever being infected if they just stick to it during this this period of time. Am I right about that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely right. This is exactly the objective of wearing a mask and taking these precautions now. That save yourself, protect yourself till the vaccine is out. When the vaccine is out, get yourself vaccinated without getting infected, build up your immunity like that. So that is the right approach.
Okay, and if I had one more question, because I've been confused with regard to the various statements that people have made. And there is this theme that's been going around, the herd immunity. Right. And it's really confusing, because on the one hand, the proponents of that school of thought say, just let everybody get it, and then eventually, enough people will be vaccinated or be infected and develop antibodies that the rest of the population should be okay, versus that segment of the population that says, let's just wear the masks until we get to the vaccine. How do you look at those statements, and how should we evaluate those?
So it's a very tricky thing to understand. By herd immunity, what is meant is two things. One is the non-specific immunity, which everyone has against, say, bacteria, virus and all, which is not to a particular specific strain of virus. Mm-hmm. The generic immunity that we have. And then we have this specific immunity. Specific immunity is towards that particular organism, a particular virus, a particular strain of the virus. Mm-hmm. That immunity can come up only when somebody gets infected or somebody gets vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And so what is being talked about is, as in herd immunity, is basically how the specific immunity will develop to this virus. Yes, if we expose the whole population to virus, a lot of people will get infected by that and develop the immunity, and the transmission may stop. But the risk is, what is the flip side? That a large number of people who are at very, very high risk of severe disease. So older people who are diabetic, people who are obese, people who got cardiac issues, people who got respiratory issues, there the mortality rate and the incidence of severe disease is very, very high. That risk is not worth taking. That is what was responsible for very large number of deaths in the Europe, in UK, even New York also. And that's a risk which is not worth taking. So to mitigate that risk, we need to take precaution. And so to mitigate risk to those 10% of people, the rest, the 90% of people should also take precaution. Mm-hmm. So let us say 75% of people are young, they don't have any complicating factors, they don't have other risk factors, and probably they will not get severe disease. But they also need to take precautions, because to save those 25% of people who are at a higher risk of getting severe disease, and where the risk of death or mortality rate is much higher. Mm-hmm. Although the overall mortality rate is, say, 1 to 3%, but if you take high-risk people or people who are in the older age group, there the mortality percentage is almost 30 to 35%. Okay. So that to mitigate that risk, others need to take precaution. So the precaution may not be to save myself, but precaution may be to save the whole world.
Okay. Okay, and Rakesh, I mean, where do you come down on this argument between herd immunity, which, as we just heard, brings with it a cost of death to a number of people? So that's more of a high risk versus bridging it with and getting to a vaccine. Rakesh?
Okay, I can just speak on what scientific logic I'm aware of. The doco that I was checking out, the coronavirus, is already got more than 30 different strains. Some of them are more virulent, some of them less so. With herd immunity, for a large country, the cost of absolute numbers of human lives is horrendous, and if you have the more virulent form, which is more likely to prevail amongst the various strains, you can have deaths that are in the millions.
Wow.
I don't think there's going to be much herd immunity because the way this virus operates, doubt it. It attacks the immune system in such a comprehensive way and incrementally improving its own performance. Because of the huge number of base pairs, I think it's got a lot of scope for mutations.
Okay.
And with that, I don't see. We can win some battles, but the war will be a long time winning.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Kimberly?
Well, I would like to hear from Sasha on this point first, and then I'll give my point of view.
I think the vaccine is grossly overestimated, and I don't think that people have to think about vaccine as a panacea from all these problems with the coronavirus. It's not at all. First of all, there are well over 60 types of coronaviruses. It's very difficult to imagine vaccines that will cure or at least prevent all of them or most of them. Its effectiveness, some people believe that it will be around 70%, but even if it's 75 or 80%, it's still not good enough. There are a lot of people who will refuse to be vaccinated. So if you are vaccinated and your neighbor is not, then what is the effect? Are you really immune, knowing that there are so many types of coronavirus that perhaps 70 or maybe even 80% it's effective? So you are still in the danger zone. So I think you still have to really rigorously do all the usual things like washing your hands, wearing mask, keeping physical distance, and you have to do it for a foreseeable future probably. And that's far more important in my opinion than vaccine or no vaccine.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement that herd immunity is not exactly the thing to do at this time. And my thoughts on this is that herd immunity has been used over the years when you understand how to treat a particular disease or virus, like the chicken pox, right? We just didn't jump in and go, oh, rub your kids up against everyone else, make sure you're, no, we didn't do that until we understood how to treat it. The other situation that we run into is that we will overwhelm our medical industry and all of the great and wonderful doctors and physicians out there if we just go out and herd immunize on this situation and we still don't know how to treat all of them. And as we discussed here, science is revealing that there's so many different strains. It's not practical at this time to overwhelm our medical industry. It's not practical. And I have to agree with Dr. Dhawan. There are so many people out there who this becomes fatal to, right? And when you begin herd immunity, it spreads faster. We know this. It's just going to spread. And we're going to put so many lives at risk that we will not be able to treat, that the fatality rate will go beyond what it did for the Spanish flu back in 1918 or some of the other plagues that hit our world that killed 50 to 60 million people at one time. So I think we need to not be instant gratified like we always are, or the microwave industry where we want everything now. And I think we need to think of our future and plan it. But that's just my opinion. I'm not medical. I'm not science. I'm just well read. I read a lot. So.
No, absolutely. Dr. Dhawan.
Yes, I have a comment to make that herd immunity is not something which you can prospectively plan for unless you have a vaccine. Herd immunity is that you can look upon things retrospectively. That, okay, fine, the infection was spreading, and at one point of time, it stopped spreading significantly. Why? Because herd immunity developed. You cannot plan for the herd immunity. Herd immunity will develop only if the infection actually spreads and involves a lot of the number of people. But in that process, a lot of number of people will die also, which is what we do not want to have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess another question that that's been kind of nagging at me has been simply this, that with all these discussions about the vaccine trials, they're doing a number of different trials in various places, but they're seeking volunteers. Now, I guess, I don't know, and I just want to ask the panel, how you go about thinking. Would you want to volunteer for an untested vaccine in the COVID, or would you hold off and wait until others have come down and proven it?
I would have to be paid at least $500,000 to consider to do that.
That's all?
That's all.
$500,000 will do, because I still have chances to stay alive, and $500,000 will not hurt either. So I think it's a good proposition.
Okay. Ricky?
To be honest, I don't want to mess around with the virus. I would first try to understand how the vaccine worked. If it was something like the Oxford one where they're targeting the spike protein and maybe a range of spike proteins, I might look at that. But otherwise, I would be very chary of being a guinea pig.
Okay, so we have $500,000 per star. We have a hard no on Rakesh. Dr. Dhawan,
so I would say that it is always about the risk-benefit ratio. Okay. So if there's a volunteer is a person who is at a low risk of getting severe disease, say it's a young person who has got no other complicating factors, then the risk is small. And that risk is worth taking. Also, if the reward is, say, like $500,000 or $1 million, so maybe so taking the risk-benefit ratio into account, a young person may be subjected to trial first, Mm-hmm. And once it is found to be effective in a large number of young volunteers, then one can go on to say people with slightly higher risk, slightly older groups. So there can be stepwise escalation of the thing. But yes, without trials, a vaccine will not come into a picture, will not come into effect, So trials have to be done. So somebody has to volunteer to get it done.
Okay, but would you be one of those people to volunteer, I guess?
Well, my age is against it. I am 58, mm-hmm. but I do not have any other risk factor. So I can go for being a volunteer.
Okay. Kimberly, I mean, we've got the price tag on it. $500,000. This is going away if there are any takers.
So I'm going to be like Dr. Anthony. I don't want to be a test dummy. But seriously, I have a lot of health problems, and my age puts me in a very high risk as well. So I'm, the same age as Dr. Dhawan. So I really don't want to put myself or my family at risk because we don't know. And Dr. Arthur kind of scared me from the vaccines because he predicted what was going to go wrong during the trial, even with the healthy people, and it happened. So that's why he's now sitting on the board. So
if you could explain that a little more, because some of our viewers may not have had the opportunity to do
Okay, so I can't scientifically say, but he predicted that there would be some kind of spinal and mind, to the brain, the nervous system, that it would attack it. And there was one of the trial patients that was somewhat healthy, and sure enough, it attacked the spine and brain and caused a lot of problems. So he predicted that this would happen, and it did.
And that was the vaccine trials that were shut down, I guess, in England, or which studies?
I think it was England. I hate that I'm not on top of it as well as he is, but I always rely on the doctors when they come in to have all the specifics. But because of his his prediction, his foresight in doing the science, that's what we talk about here is the science of all of this, and that's why I'm glad that we have a doctor here as well to talk about too how it can impact our eyes, our minds, but when he had predicted this, it was so interesting because 2 weeks later, that's when it happened, and he came back on, and he has now been nominated to sit on the board for vaccines. But that's something that we have to take, into consideration is the risk versus the benefits.
Right.
The doctor said, and if you're putting right now, because there's still so much unknown and there's so many strains, you're putting even healthy lives at risk right now. I think we're jumping too fast. We just started this not even a year ago in China, not even 8 months ago. It seems like a long time here in the US, and we got a vaccine to test. I don't, where did they get it? I don't trust it.
Yeah, and I guess I raised the issue, and this is for the panelists, because it highlights not only how we individually might look at it, but if you're the head of a household and you've got your kids and they're young and maybe they are public spirited and they want to join these trials, I mean, it's important, I guess, to weigh these various things. Because certainly you can make a personal decision for yourself, but when your kid comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining this trial," I mean, obviously that's a very scary thing, and these conversations are going on around the world in various households. I'm curious, Sasha, how many would would then come in and underbid you, just to say he's too expensive, but I'm available. But
Okay, before I will give you an answer, I would like to remind what we just talking before. All of you must know the tennis player by the name Novak Djokovic, supposedly the greatest tennis player of all times. Although he has a certain problem because he is not nearly as popular as Federer and Nadal, and he's suffering because of that. Mind you, he was organizing one small tennis tournament in Croatia or Serbia, I'm not so sure, or somewhere in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, back in June or July this year, and all players there were only 4 players, all of them got infected with coronavirus, including Novak Djokovic himself. And the fact is now, considering what's happened with him in US Open, when he badly needed to win this tournament in the absence of Nadal and Federer, so he would catch Nadal and would get very close to Federer on the Grand Slams. He had incredible outburst and hit with the ball as a line judge, and he was immediately disqualified, kicked out of the tournament, fined $10,000 fine, and he was not paid at least probably $200,000 prize money that he already had. And if he would go on and win the tournament, he would win probably around $3 million. So the consequences were very, very heavy on him. Yet it seems to me that he couldn't control his temper when actually it was an accident in my opinion, because I saw many repetitions of that. But he was warned to be very careful when he kicks the ball because he can hurt somebody. So he knew about it, or maybe at that moment he just forgot. But there are definitely some psychological effects of coronavirus which are not being studied carefully enough.
So if I understand you correctly, Sasha, you're suggesting that his prior infection may have affected his later judgment as kind of a lingering.
Absolutely, 100%.
Doctor, what do you think about that? I mean, Kimberly, you raised this, and it was pointed out by Dr. Art. But Dr. Dhawan, I mean...
So coronavirus is known to affect the brain, is known to affect the smell, the taste, can affect the eyes also, has had some psychological effects as well. So it has had a wide variety of, it affects almost every part of the body and can have wide variety of effect. And there's no way to predict what can happen. So yes, there is a possibility that the player had some psychological after effects of this virus, which may have impaired his judgment or self-control. So it is possible. Regarding the case where the trial case where the vaccine affected the brain and the spine, every trial has these risks in it, and when a volunteer is taken, the volunteer has to sign a consent where it's explained that what are the possible risks. So the person who's volunteering is willing to take those risks. So there's nothing, nothing very big to be predicting about that. No, it is a fact that every trial has got a risk involved in it, and the volunteers are the ones who are taking that risk and getting rewarded for taking that risk also. And but without these risks, without the trials, it is not possible to bring out a vaccine or to have any drug or any treatment of any kind for any ailment.
No, and I'm glad that you brought us up to date on that. That there's some facts that we don't know that happens in trials, and that people do sign waivers to take the risk. And I hate saying it this way, but heroes don't always get to come home and march in a parade. And to me, being a test subject for this, I called it a test dummy only because Dr. Anthony called it that. And that's rude. That's very, very rude for me to do that. But what I want to say is that all too often heroes don't come home to march in a parade. They come home in a casket, and we have to respect the people who are going to step forward to test this for us and put a lot of prayers behind them that we find the answer in the vaccine and that it comes out right, and be thankful for these people because it is scary.
I wouldn't mind. I'm sorry, it just came to my mind. You know what I'd like to see? That CEOs and presidents of all these pharmaceutical companies which are inventing this vaccine will take it upon themselves and their family and prove that they really work. That would convince me. And then I would, I actually, instead of $500,000 in this case, I would go for $100,000 because I would know that they would.
You take it first. That's right. The seller takes it first.
Yeah, let them prove it. In history, many esteemed doctors of medicine, when they were trying something, they were trying on themselves first, and if it worked, then they would offer it to other people. So I'd like to see that happen. That would make me very secure.
History is full of all kind of examples. Actually, there are a lot of trials which happened, which were against voluntarily being for forced trials also. Trials on the inmates in prisons and concentration camps also. Those trials happened. So history is full of all the good and bad examples. But these days, yes, there are rules and norms to be followed. All the possible risks are explained to the volunteer. Volunteer accepts, So as long as this trial is done in a fair manner, for all the information given to the volunteer, and volunteer is properly compensated, and in the eventuality of any mishap, there is also bigger compensation. I think it's the right way to go about doing it, because there's no other way. There's no other way. Anything new, any new vaccine has to be first tested in some set of people. So it's better to test it on people who are willing to take that risk rather than testing on the masses without any trials first.
And I guess on that point, maybe it's just a small nuance with the proliferation of strains, anywhere from 30 to 60 different mutations. We're not even sure which vaccines may be effective across all the strains, or whether or not they're individually tagged, like for one strain at a time. And so that makes it more uncertain, doesn't it, Dr. Dhawan?
Yes, it does. And there, now I mentioned it last time also that the virus has got various parts, and when the strains are different, there's a lot of common genetic material. There's a lot of material which is common across the strain. If the vaccine is acting against that common material, it will be effective across the strains. But if it is acting only against the specific part, which is different for a particular strain, then it will not have any immunity or a benefit to the other strain. So it depends on how the vaccine is working, what is the mechanism of action.
Let me ask you this question. If vaccine indeed successfully works, right? So the vaccine basically is is some bodies which are going inside of me, and they will affect respiratory tract and several other organs. But because it's a mild sort of thing, so it supposedly will disappear. Supposedly, I will get antibodies and all that stuff. But again, as we discussed before, it will affect my brains. And what if that effect will stay on for months, if not years? How to mitigate this problem? Because we don't know nothing about that.
So if a vaccine trial shows that it's affecting the brain in an adverse way of a long duration, that vaccine will not be accepted for mass use. Only the particular vaccine which is safe, which has only very mild effects and is beneficial for a large number of people, will be actually put out in the market for mass use. No? So these trials are meant to find out that vaccine which works very well in most people and has got minimal side effects. Now I'll give you an example of, for example, polio vaccine. Polio was a big disease which is affecting the spine and the nervous system. And then a vaccine was created which was a live attenuated vaccine. So the virus was active virus, but it was a modified virus. It was given in the form of polio drops. The only thing it would give rise is a mild fever and slight cough, cold for a few days. After that, it would give rise to a strong immunity against polio, as a result of which the polio has been fully eradicated from India. So vaccines are effective, but yes, how soon an effective vaccine will come, there is no way to predict that. And for that, trials are required. And everybody is impatient to get the right vaccine. And so we should not criticize the trial part. As long as the trials are fair, with full disclosure to the volunteers, I think it is acceptable.
Sure. Rakesh.
Yeah, I strongly agree with Dr. Dhawan. I think he's spot on there. I'm high risk diabetic, hypertensive, so I wouldn't take a test dose. But once the vaccine is reasonably proven, which means we have some degree of knowledge of the risks, yeah, I would certainly go for it, because I'm not one of those ODD or odd people.
like Nick talked about, opposition disorder. Yeah.
Not one of those odd people. Very even man.
Opposition defiant disorder.
Just be part of the team.
And I guess just another lingering kind of question, Kimberly, for you. Obviously, your thoughts on this, but also you raised an interesting point. Oftentimes when we face a national crisis, like war, we see the caskets come home, and that has an impact. And here we are, at least in the United States, with over 200,000, but there really hasn't been a focus on caskets. Do you think that would make a difference with people complying with the suggestions from Dr. Ron and everybody about wearing?
So I've been on top of this from day one. The first question I posed the minute I heard that this virus was becoming a pandemic was, I started doing research. What is the final impact to the human body? Mm-hmm. Right. That was my biggest concern. I didn't want to know anything else. I just wanted to know what is the damage that can happen. And so I started reading the white papers on it. And I saw a potential for high fatality rate because of the damage that it can cause if we're not getting treated properly. And when you overwhelm the medical industry, you will do that. So then we saw what happened to Italy, right? I cried. Every report I read, and Sasha was there too, we were just in tears. And because even the doctors were dying. So that's when I realized that this is far greater than what any of us could even have foreseen. You could not have told even the doctors that this was that dangerous. And then that's what impacted me. But I'm going to tell you what impacted me the most the other day is a prayer that Dr. Saggu posted for the doctors, because the doctor just passed away. And the most impactful picture I have seen, it was a picture of a coffin being carried away. Mm-hmm. And this doctor gave her life on the front line to serve us heroically, right? Mm-hmm. But we're not taking the precaution here by disrespecting them by wearing the mask that we should be wearing. We're not supporting them.
Mhm.
But I think that coffin impacted my day more than any other picture I saw that day.
Mm.
So I do think coffins were.
No, Kim, a couple of days ago, I saw absolutely overwhelming program, I think on CNN, where a young doctor, she was graduated just last year probably, and it was her first baby delivery in the hospital. And there was a picture of her, she was holding a baby, she was 28 years old. And she died because of the coronavirus, and it was interviewed with her parents, who were not that old people, because they're in their 50s, probably late 50s maybe. And they were very calm. Mother was asked, so what was she like? What was the person that was she? She said she was a very cheerful person, and she was looking forward to be employed as a doctor, and that was a dream of her life. And then she's describing her last couple of days. She already couldn't communicate, and mother was trying to send her messages, and then she was finally allowed with a heavy protection to go into room with her, and she's asking if she could hear me, and she said, "Yeah, I can hear you, Mom, and I love you so much." And they were basically saying goodbye to each other. And then her father talked a little bit too, and you can't watch that without crying. Absolutely impossible.
Right.
Yeah, you can't. And every moment of this has been devastating. We try to become the positive, happy news, but Bill, to answer your question, I think the coffins, the stacks of coffins that they had in New York, I don't even think they've had proper burials. And Dr. Dhawan, I don't know what it's like in India at this moment or anywhere else in the world, but that's something we should fight to prevent. And I think that if we stop the mass spreading, get it under control, and this is something that I have to commend South Africa for, is they did 5-stage program, and they told their people, when we get this under control to so many thousands, and it stays that way for so many months, then we're going to go to the next stage.
Mhm.
When we get it under control to so many, lesser thousands, and it stays like this for a couple of weeks, then we're going to go to this stage.
Mhm.
So what they did was they made their people root for getting rid of the spread. They made their people work for it and inspired to work for it, because wow, when we get down to here, we only have 1,000 people, and it stays that way for 3 weeks or 6 weeks. We're stable enough to go back to live. And they inspired you with the countdown, right? And that reduced the fatality rates, that reduced the massive spreads, which we are back again to having massive spreads here in our state. We're spreading again. We're not containing.
Mhm.
So, but Dr. Dhawan, I know that your time is special with us here. Some of the things that I am concerned about is if a person gets COVID in the eyes, is there enough information out there that presents if it could become damaging and if so, permanent?
So regarding the eye part, it does lead to acute conjunctivitis, a viral conjunctivitis, which is typically like any other conjunctivitis. It can also cause inflammation around the eye, in the eye. But as I said earlier once also, that we have seen an increased number of cases of optic neuritis. We have not been able to find any direct correlation with COVID, but there's a possible risk of increased incidence of optic neuritis. Optic neuritis can be potentially sight-threatening. However, my cases, they responded very well to the steroid treatment. They recovered very, very well. But yes, it is causing any very different kind of disease presentation in different parts of the body, especially in the eye. So in and around the eye, inflammation is a very, very common phenomena. Fortunately, not leaving behind a permanent damage, provided it is picked up early and treated appropriately.
Okay, actually, for our audience, what are some of the symptoms of that, so that people may know?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So basically, in the eyes, there is redness, there is watering, there is irritation, there is swelling of the lids, The eyes will feel very, very sore. You may not like the light very much. Like a typical red eye or conjunctivitis it presents. In addition, the swelling may be a little bit more. Very typically, left eye is affected first, right eye is affected later on, and the conjunctivitis may last for about 1 to 2 weeks or so. Then there will be other symptoms alongside conjunctivitis. There may be fever, there may be cough. If those symptoms are also there, then one needs to be tested for COVID. If it is purely conjunctivitis and there is no other symptom, then one can simply wait and watch for it to settle down. Simple cold compresses, some plain antibiotic eye drops, some anti-inflammatory eye drops are the treatment of choice for them. But if the patient is testing positive for COVID, then full treatment for the COVID is required.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
that's interesting to know, and I'm glad to hear that giving some advice on when to potentially consider getting tested for COVID. I don't know about other countries right now, but I know that we've picked up the pace for testing here, just in our state. What about you, Dr. Dhawan?
Yeah, so the testing has increased in India also, but it is mostly the rapid antigen test, which is done more frequently, which has got a false negative rate of about 50%. But again, 50% positive rate is a good enough rate, better than not doing anything at all. RT-PCR also is increasing, but the vast majority of tests which are being done are the rapid antigen tests. So the number of tests have increased. There's a relaxation now. Anybody can walk in and get the tests done. So there's no formalities to be fulfilled for those tests. So which is a good thing. And that is also the reason why the number of reported cases is much higher now.
Right.
Good point. Rakesh, how is it in your country? Is the testing increased?
Hong Kong, there's not much of a problem, really. We've got the person identified with symptoms. They report it. We test it, and then we know that there's a case. We don't have to do sort of mass testing because it's a small population, just about 7 million, and the elephant in the room for all of this is that we have to understand this planet is calibrated for 2 billion. We're 7 billion. That
right.
It's got to be understood, and if we don't correct it, nature will correct it just like it has done.
Right. Which is always, I guess, one of the scarier prospects. Because, it just seems to me that we're at a point in time where it seems like we've lived with this for so long, even though, Kimberly, you're right, it's merely a stone's throw away that this started. But yet people are now becoming inoculated to the idea of the death tolls and what you have to do as a daily regimen, and that they really need to be diligent because of the potential effects, whether it's long-term damage to your thought process or your eyesight or any other kinds of physical conditions. And
just think of any natural processes. If you look at wildebeest or any animal that is prey to a predator, the oldest and the youngest, the most vulnerable, die first. But this is what Corona is doing. So this is a natural process. This is going to happen. And if we've got all these, I would say, non-logical dogmas where they say go forth and multiply in different languages, different things, that is your formula for extinction.
Wow. There you have it. We have, I think, do we have a new guest coming in?
Yes, we do. And I didn't want to delay too much longer. Before we do, or as I bring her in, it's Jimois. But I want to say happy anniversary to Dr. Dhawan. Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
One of your fans has sent you a happy anniversary wish. I think there's another one that popped in while we were talking. And then, of course, we have a birthday today to Rakesh. So we're celebrating all kinds of wonderful things in life.
Happy birthday, Rakesh ji. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right? But we also have another guest from California, Jimois.
Good morning.
And welcome to our Medical Friday talk today. Some of the things that we're talking about is Dr. Dhawan is an eye specialist and from India. And so, of course, we've talked about the importance of good eye coverage during COVID and the damage, that it can get in and cause, what we call normal viruses. But what are some of your thoughts about, we moved on into testing. What are some of your thoughts on the testing in your neck of the woods?
For coronavirus?
Yes.
So our COVID-19 cases are still rising because of the agricultural workers mostly who don't have access to social distancing at work. So testing is essential. And I'm concerned about the accuracy of the testing still in terms of positives and negatives. But I think it's really important to keep monitoring it, especially for school and distance learning. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm curious. Have they stepped up the stations, and are they using the I guess it's the PCR test versus the embodies, the rapid test? Have they changed?
So I think it's a matter of access based on socioeconomic and work accessibility. And I was just talking to a friend last week who got sick and she couldn't find any tests. And it's that catch-22 where she wasn't sick enough or she was too sick, and the availability of the tests was poor. So she didn't take a test because she couldn't find it. We do in California have free testing, but I guess it's limited in certain places, and she's in Silicon Valley. So, yeah, I think it's still a problem.
I agree. I think I don't understand why they haven't sent out to us rapid test kits to every home. I know that they're available because of some work that I was doing in the very beginning of all of this, that I was helping people connect resources from one business to another. So, providers, distributors, and stuff like that, so that doctors could get better access to the test kits and PPE equipment. So I was because people would see us on TV and go, "Hey, I got this," right? And I go, "Well, hey, call this person." Anyway, I know that they exist. I know they're not as expensive as the in charge because I know what they cost on wholesale. And to me, it would have been cheaper to send each of us a rapid test kit every day so that we could test and go back to work, test every day like you do for diabetes or something else. Very simple prick, right? And like Dr. Dhawan said, yeah, the rate of it being positive testing results is not great, but it's better than doing nothing at all, right?
Right.
So then we get everybody testing, right? You isolate the flare-ups and you control it, and people can get back to work. That would have been better than the $300 check they sent us, because that didn't help me any at all. It helped some people. I hate to be rude about it, but $300 was not enough to pay for most people's rent, let alone food. So to me, it would have been more cost effective. They could have sent that kit out every month, right?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be every family member test. Think about this. We isolate it, right? So just test one family member every day. And then, if one of you become positive, the one who's going to work every day or going out in the world every day, then odds are all of you are going to become positive. So to me, there's some logical sense that we're not using. I mean, Bill, I'm going to pass this to you. What do you think about that?
Well, I generally agree with the doctor, and as well as you, that testing is the best and fastest way, even if it's only at a 50% accuracy rate, for us to identify the hot spots. Because once we identify the hot spots, then we can go in, say, with other resources and more accurate testing and get a better idea on it. But the issue is seeing how it spreads. Because right now, and I'll just take a step back. A couple of weeks back, we had the motorcycle thing in, I believe, South Dakota, where Sturgis, they all came together and they celebrated and had a good time. And then they all dispersed, and they called that a super spreader, as you know, Doctor. But then they went all back to their various states, and then we saw spikes in various states like Iowa, where the rates suddenly dramatically jumped. And it seems to me, first, the issue of the super spreader events is really troubling because that's part of that ODD disorder that I just object and am defiant and I can't help myself. But by then going back into the state, if we can test and isolate, then we can bring more resources to bear. But the thing that's really scary about it, at least from what I've observed so far, and I open this up to the panel. I know that we had talked about would you personally volunteer for a study, and it seems to me that in some respects people are already volunteering to get the virus when they attend some of Trump's rallies, or they attend these other large events where they openly flaunt protective measures and they just don't follow them. They are openly courting, it seems to me, disaster and some of the long-term effects that Sasha, you raised with the tennis player. But I'm open to listening because it really is a serious thing, and I don't know how we can collectively drive the message home to that portion of the population that somehow thinks it's not going to happen to them.
And you raise a good red flag there, but unfortunately, I think Dr. Dhawan has to take leave and have dinner with his family, and of course, anniversary dinner, I hope.
Yeah.
But Dr. Dhawan, do you have any good, wise words to wrap up with us until we see you again?
So I'll say that number one, wear the mask, wear some glasses, keep your hands clean when you go out now. And when you're indoors, take care of your eyes because you're looking at the screens throughout the day. So take frequent breaks, take enough rest, exercise regularly, take a balanced diet so that your immunity is also good. And I'll see you again maybe next week. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I'll take leave of all of you. Bye.
Thank you so much and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. What a pleasure he is to have join us, right? We've got beautiful doctors on this show. I mean, everybody says, Kim, you're always so happy, even though I'm like upset about certain things. They always say, Kim, you're so happy when you leave the show. Good news, right?
Yeah, because I will go to you, Zhang Wei, in a second. But it seems to me part of dealing with the stress of all of this and all this uncertainty is at least having the ability to know what you can know, and that's what these doctors provide. You know, the ear infections, some of the risks that have already shown up with the treatment, and these other kinds of things. But that at least provides some sort of stability, something upon which we can build. Zhang Wei?
Oh, Zhang, so thank you. And I agree with you absolutely that knowledge is power. And thank you, IBM TV, and you, Bill, for all the knowledge that you bring to us and the positive environment that we can use during COVID and the pandemic, during all these collective stressors. So thank you.
It is something, something that they're talking about a lot more now. It was something I read about back in February, a white paper and an article with the National Geographic, who boldly decided to write about this right away back in February. It discussed how it would get into the lungs, tear it into a honeycomb, and then it would find an opening and get into what they call the blood and cause a blood storm. Right. And you think of a storm, but it would cause a blood storm. And then it would get into the other organs, including the brain. And some of what they were talking about, I'm always curious, why is it always the left side? And that was my curiosity when he brought this up, because the infections that I've had this year have just been purely on the left side. Absolutely. Normally when I get a sinus infection, my whole face, right? Allergy, this is held in only in my left side. My eye, my nose, my throat, and my ears. My ear would get infected so bad my whole neck would swell. So I'm curious as to why. And so it was great to hear from him say, well, also de-stress your body a little bit, right? Detox a little bit, eat healthier, de-stress. But some of the concerns I had was getting into the blood, causing a blood storm, and causing all of these other damages. But one of the things I read, and this is positive, and I didn't do what I normally do when I get a sinus infection, which is take Sudafed to dry it up. It said that mucus is your friend because, yes, it said that with corona, I read this in one of those many, many articles. I'm going to find it. But it said that mucus is your friend in the coronavirus case because it's going to capture it and it can't get out of it. You know, what can get out of mucus, right?
No, listen.
So, and then, you know, Dr. Yoo and Dr. Saggu and a couple of other doctors came on board many times and said, make a mixture of Listerine or Scope with a little bit of peroxide and gargle every day, especially if you're out, and that will help. If it's in there, that should help clear it out as well. Doesn't mean you're going to get all of it, but you're certainly fighting it because it can't fight these things. That's why but you don't want to put soap in your mouth. But they said soap; it can't fight soap.
Yeah,
right?
and we want to make sure that we're not drinking bleach or.
Don't be spraying bleach down there. For peroxide, salt. They proved salt is a good defense mechanism. Gargling with salt, rinsing your nose out continuously. Your sinuses. It's hard to rinse your ears out. You shouldn't do your ears with water because that will trap water in there if there's any infection. But there are things that you can do for your ears as well. But these are just little defense tactics that they were teaching you besides, upping your vitamin D, which was very, very important. And we don't need to forget it. These are things we need to remind everybody. Up your vitamin D, up your vitamin C. But when I learned that mucus was my friend, I quit taking Sudafed. I was like, all right, Corona, fight's on.
I know, and actually, just on a side note, when I think it was 2 Medical Fridays ago, when we talked, we had the extensive discussion about boosting our immune system. I put my juicer into high gear, so like carrot juice and you name it, and I started looking at the recipes to see what's an immune booster and spices and things of that nature. So I've learned a lot, but you're right, Kimberly, just to let the body know that the fight's on.
Fight's on, and get out there and as much sunshine as you can get. And Dr. Yoo, he was so funny because he would go, and you go out there and you lay like this and you open your mouth and you let it get in your mouth. Let the sun get in your mouth. And I'm like, if I do that, every fly in the county's going to get in my mouth. So, but hey, he was right. Get out there. He was being good. He's so goofy, and I miss him. I hope he comes back. But when things started lifting up, his practice started running again. So, and so he's a stem cell researcher as well as a chiropractor. So, and he's got 2 facilities, one in America and one in Mexico. So he's really, really busy. But these tactics, they're beautiful for us to fight with, right? They're simple. They're things that you have access to every day, I hope. I hope that people have access to being able to go out and get in the sun, except for when it's raining. I hope that people, of course, in Genoa, you have suffered from the fires there blocking healthy air.
Right.
But, and that's been concerning for me. How are you doing with all of that?
So we've had a week of okay air, and it's getting down. Now we have the our traditional weather, which has been up and down this year. So we'll see what the winter brings. So far, it's been okay, but there have been still fires here and there, especially in Los Angeles County, I think.
Because you're in the LA area, correct?
I'm in Northern California, so
okay.
So just south of Silicon Valley.
That's what I thought, but when you said especially in the LA area, but the northern Silicon Valley, one thing I've always liked about it is that it's always stayed kind of cooler than the rest of the state. It made it nice to visit even during the summers, because the air does stay cooler, and I always like the smell of the ocean around there in that area. So.
Yeah, I live by the ocean. Well, so it's interesting with this smoke because just half an hour away, we have a 10-degree weather difference. And so within like a 15-minute zone, there's a lot of different microclimates because Northern California has all these, coastal microclimates. And when we have smoke down south or up north or in the valley, everything congregates and moves around quickly, and it even moves across the nation, right? So it's interesting to think about and be more aware of what's going on environmentally in different areas.
Okay.
Wow. So, and look who we have here. Welcome, Lynn.
Welcome.
Good morning.
He comes from the state. Well, Lynn, share with us a little bit. Well, we all know who Lynn is, right? He's our great, wonderful sponsor from the online Family Dollar store. But let's talk a little bit about your area. Now, you were COVID-free for quite some time. Is it still that way?
Still that way. At least insofar as the people I talk to from the community, when I see them at the post office, or they've had a few events here in the community. Because it's a church-oriented community, I'm not a member of the church, but everybody's very close here. So within the last week, I've asked the question, and nobody seems to know anybody who's had COVID, at least here in the community. And I think it also is in the surrounding community. So I'm in a suburb north of Philadelphia, sort of due north, actually surrounded by another community where I lived for 28 years. So we made the big move to downsize. We moved about a grand total of 1 mile. But anyway, we're contiguous sort of to Northeast Philadelphia. I don't know what the status is in Northeast Philadelphia, but in our surrounding community, not just here in Bernathen, Pennsylvania, but pretty much in our surrounding community, we've been, and I will knock on wood, pretty good. Now, in a life care community, which is about 3 miles away where my mother lived before she passed away in 2015, they had early on, they had 7 deaths in their health center. But since then, they've gotten a really good handle on it, and knock on wood, that's what my grandkids think. They think it's sort of thick up there, so that's why I do that. Anyway, so I think they've gotten a good handle on it. We're starting to go out. I've actually done 2 face-to-face events with people, and I'm leaving here and shortly. Well, in my case, because I'm so short, I leave shortly all the time. But the fact is that, I use that line. When people pick up the phone, you remember these, Kimberly? Remember these? Sasha remembers these. But
is it the rotary or is it the push button?
Oh no, it's. I think it goes back to party line. I pick it up.
It's an operator. Can you connect me to Barney?
You remember Lily Tomlin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lily Tomlin. Is this the person I'm speaking with? Anyway, anyway, I can't even remember why I picked up the telephone. Oh well, there was a story there.
Okay.
Oh,
okay,
well.
doctor, we need to have a COVID test.
Yeah. No, you need to have a brain test. That's what you.
That's what we were talking about today. Is how COVID has impacted the brain.
Oh.
Just the whole conversation about how COVID has impacted the brain and some of the people's actions.
I think my grandkids would tell you that COVID must have been around 15 or 20 years ago then.
Well, everybody straighten up. Nick has arrived. He's going to welcome Nick. How are you?
How do you like that? What a welcome. Thanks, guys. I've arrived. There we go. How do you like that? I decided to bring some real action to.
That was better than what the president got last night.
Yeah, but see, I'm better than that. I haven't found the Boo soundtrack yet. Give me an opportunity to do this. It's just going to take a while, but I did find this soundtrack. So this is pretty good. It's great to have Lynn Shepherd on the show. I just can't beat Lynn Shepherd. And the Family Dollar store.
Listen, that could be the only time in my life I get applauded.
How do you like that?
Nick?
You know, and the thing is, and also, we just have a lot of great people on our show, and we all recognize them. We have Miss Kim on the show. Miss Kim, good to have you here. How you like that? You know, hey, this is pretty good. I found a new toy. You guys are in a lot of trouble. You guys are in a lot of trouble. Whenever I find technology toys, it's great. And of course, Sasha Starr, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
And then, of course, we shan't forget, because I got some new people showing up on American Politics with Bill Trezevant. And Bill Trezevant, we certainly can't forget him, can we? Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah. You just can't beat technology, can you? So this adds some life to Med Center doctors. Or I found a new toy, either one. So anyway, that was my pretty cool toy.
And you know Jim Walk, right?
Yeah, I introduced I introduced her. Right, as a matter of fact, she even got an applause. There you go. There's another applause.
Hey, guys.
Thank you again.
You can't beat contracts.
So if you find the boo,
I'm working on it. Give me some time.
I'm sure that you can, give me the boo.
Go to Trump's speech from last night, and you'll hear a lot of boos.
Oh, come on. The thing is,
we just talked about it earlier today.
I don't know about booing. I'm not sure if that's good. That's horrible. I don't know if you want to have a boo soundtrack.
Oh my God. Starting to get a little serious. I mean,
what?
And you're going to comment with the soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've always wanted to play with this technology, and if people disagree with me, I'll bring my supporters in, and it's going to be really, really hard. What? I guess I don't have any supporters.
That's such a downer, man.
Okay. So.
Yeah, it depends on what town you're in. But our topic today has been about. We kind of went back a little bit about talking about coronavirus with Dr. Dhawan, because he's the ophthalmologist from India, he's an eye specialist, and we talked about how it is affecting the eyes, what causes it, what symptoms to look for. Great conversation, but also the impact that it has had on the brain.
Yeah, and it's really. It's really difficult to discuss medical things with me.
And live too, so there's no edit button. But sure,
there's no edit button. Well, you see, Ankit's busy right now, so this is going right through the streaming, and he can't stop it.
So, Nick, have you had your Diet Coke today?
I've got a couple of them. Why?
Okay.
You know what Nick does? He eats all the little the snacks and stuff that he gets from the online dollar store.
I do.
There, and he plays with his computer to find all these things while he's eating the snacks and
brain food. Brain food. It's called hacker food. At hacker events, they juice you up with caffeine and all the junk food so that you think faster for whatever you're hacking and building.
Yeah. I mean, the real problem is I drink too much Diet Coke and I don't get enough from the family dollar store.
Okay. All right. Well, actually,
horrible sound effect.
There was a story, and is a story out there. A gentleman, and I was going over it, and I didn't have room in the Washington Report, but essentially it's this. A gentleman, he was just a construction worker, was on a daily diet of candy and soft candy and Coke, okay? And then he decided, hey, he ought to change his diet. So he started eating licorice. And the headline of the story was, he actually died from too much licorice.
Because of the lead, right?
Well, it's because of the lead, and there was a complicated medical term for it, like glycine or something of that nature. Yeah, it built up the system, and then it caused all these respiratory problems and affected his heart. And so he was dead within 2 days after changing his diet. So Nick,
yeah, I'm here.
Diet, okay,
and I need to change my diet.
Yeah, and don't change to licorice, because candy can kill you.
Candy can kill you.
Right.
But don't change too harshly from taking off Diet Coke, because that might be dangerous. Nick's body's used to it.
Okay, and Nick is commenting.
So licorice has lead in it?
I don't know.
Wow. I grew up with
and
licorice. I grew up with licorice. Wow.
I love licorice, and I stay away from it because of all the warnings in California. We have stricter protections for consumers, and so they have all these labels on everything about the lead on licorice.
Let me share with you how strict California is with their labels. So Nick and I were going to the PBS conference, and we were shipping coffee mugs there with our logos on them. Beautiful little coffee mugs, right? Power of positive thinking, our logo. And here we are going to the PBS conference, right? And California was going to ban my coffee mugs until they validated where they were made, how they were made. I had to send them a receipt. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I haven't bought any dishes for a really long time because it's hard for me to make decisions sometimes. And there's so many warnings. And this is for our health and safety, right? We're stricter and more careful about these kinds of things. And it's also aligned with European and Asian standards a lot of times too. So stoneware, I guess, is safer than regular porcelain. So I've just been doing Pyrex.
And I had to, with the mugs, after they validated who made them, how they made them, what was in them, I had to put a label in each mug.
That's great. Wow, that's a lot of work.
So that's your state working for you. Congratulations. Yeah. It was a lot of work. I didn't expect it because I go to Vegas. They don't care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anything goes in Vegas. Yeah.
Let's hear it for California. That's all I can say.
Nick, what you should know is that Berkeley passed a new ordinance called the healthy checkout, where they are moving candy and all these and potato chips to around the cash registers when you check out. So
let's hear it for Berkeley. You can't beat Berkeley.
As a potato chip addict, I'm very, very thankful.
But they're leaving the Esquire near the register so that you can check out the Esquire.
Inquirer.
Inquirer.
Yeah, that's my favorite rag. Let me see if I can find it.
They don't care what you feed your brain. They just care what you feed your body. But that's good. You got to start somewhere. Nick wouldn't know what to do if he couldn't grab his Inquirer from the counter.
I'm wondering what I left it. I had it around here somewhere.
You're serious.
I am serious. Inquirer mine.
What the Inquirer news is every day.
Wow.
You have discovered that Nick has all the serious stuff behind him. But on his end table, when he reads at night, it's Star, it's the Inquirer, and all the conspiracy rags that say that, okay, look at that.
You got to know what they're thinking.
Sure, Nick. Sure.
Oh, I just got an ad for them.
Wait, yeah, they're a communist newspaper.
So her husband just passed away from COVID, right? Or I just read something about that. The obituary of the publisher's husband.
Wow. See, this is what we were talking about today, that it's not over, like Rakesh feels like, that.
Wait a minute. This just in. And National Enquirer, coronavirus cure is finally found. Warning, surgical mass spreads infection. Worldwide deaths are over 3,000 people. American deaths are 11 and counting.
So what I like about the Enquirer is it contradicts itself every time it prints itself.
The coronavirus is found, surgical mass spreads infections, and there is only 11 deaths in the United States and counting.
Only 11?
What's the date on that?
Oh, come on. Picky.
What's the date of that?
Gosh, I don't know. They don't have a dates on this, do they?
Somewhere. But they come out every week.
Like March of 2020. It was very timely.
Yes. Okay.
And very accurate, as you can see. So I just wanted to update all of our viewers about the spread of coronavirus. It was 11 in the United States in 2020. I think it went above 11, didn't it? Or do we have 12 or 13?
We have approximately over 202,000.
No, I think you're confusing.
202,000.
Oh, wait.
Hong Kong only had 11.
Those are deaths.
Yeah, deaths. Only 11 deaths in Hong Kong.
Wasn't it? Is it 700? No, it's how many? 7 million people have been infected? Something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's just get the real data while you guys talk. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Can I talk about the dollar?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, let's hear about the Family Dollar store.
I have to leave, and the good news is, my prompter is sitting here. He's up there, right there.
Okay.
By the way, Bill, I love your bow tie. I think you look so good in the bow ties. So anyway,
Thank you.
the first thing is,
Yes.
our family owns an online dollar store. Now, the link is family.dollarstore.com, but if you're really smart, don't even remember it. Go to IBM TV and click on the big round green button, and it'll take you right to the store. Through the end of the month, which is next Wednesday, we are giving 100% of our profit to Money Masters PBS, which owns IBM TV. And we are also giving everybody who signs up as a customer not only the $5 that they get in gift tokens just for signing up to become a customer, but if you do it between now and the end of next Wednesday, you're going to get an extra $5 worth of gift tokens. So why not sign up? We ship for free for orders of $25 or more, and we have great products. So as we like to say, they're fantastic products, they're quality products at a price that's much, much less expensive than you're going to find by going to over-the-counter stores. We're here because we support Money Masters PBS, which owns IBM TV, and the mission, which is to narrow the gap between poverty and financial sustainability by providing financial education, which results in financial sustainability and financial fitness. So there are 5 aspects of financial fitness, and I usually get them wrong, but the first one is make sure that you pay all your bills. Number 2, make sure you save money after you've paid your bills. And when you save money, invest it. And when you invest it, you also have enough money left over to pay your taxes. And when you pay your taxes and you've saved money, you'll have some money left over to pay it forward. Well, with supporting the dollar store by going on and buying from the online dollar store, you do 2 of those things at the same time. You're saving money and you're paying forward.
That's correct.
But there's one other thing that you can do, Bill. Isn't that right?
Yes, that is right.
And what is that?
Well, you can invest with your savings.
Right.
And pay it forward.
Right. Yes, but there's one other thing that you've been reminding me about for a long time.
Yes. I apologize. And this is actually very important for our audience. In these times of need, we often look for ways that we can contribute and help when there are crises around. And so with the fires out in the on the West Coast and the storms and the floodings down in the South and on the East-West, what we can do is you can go to the dollar store. You can pick out items that people need, from dried food goods, or maintenance items, certainly masks and the basics that people need, and you can ship it to a specific charity or a person down there that will assist with all of the recovery efforts. It really is amazing that we forget sometimes, with all of these things hitting once under the umbrella of the pandemic, that there still is a need out there. And Lynn, I know that your organization and your family is committed to those kinds of things. But sure, if you want to talk more about that.
Well, absolutely. And of course, look at the items, because I think Kimberly's running the screen. There were lots of quality soaps there. There's Colgate toothpaste. There's Crest toothpaste, I know. There are toothbrushes. Look, see, there's the Crest toothpaste, Colgate, Ultra Bright. But we have things like CBD, small packets of CBD. So if you have a pain in the back, you can put it on your back. My grandkids think I'm a pain in the neck, so every once in a while I put it on my neck or theirs.
Uh-huh.
But we also have masks. Okay. So yesterday when I was at an event, I took a bunch of extra masks, okay, and I handed them to people because some people were complaining about the cloth masks and not being able to breathe, feeling claustrophobic. Well, these are much better. We have hand sanitizers that Kimberly is showing us. So people can get all these great things. The masks, and here's a box of the masks.
That's right.
Cost $25 for 50 of them. Okay, so it was only costing me 50 cents a mask to hand them out, except
that's right.
I apply my gift tokens. And if you get 10 gift tokens, okay, because you get 5 automatically by signing up to become a customer, and we're going to give you another 5 before the end of the month. Then it's only going to cost you $15. And how much is that per mask, Bill?
30 cents.
See, I'll tell you, right on top of things as always.
And the important thing is that the shipping is free, so that you save on the shipping, and you're only spending 30 cents on a mask. And the mask is fundamental and our basic tool in your fight with the pandemic.
So look at this. There are new food products. We found the new food products. Where's Mark? Oh, you know what? Mark is probably shopping for the food products.
I'm in.
In fact, he's eating it right now, right, Nick?
Yeah, the food products. They have some really good food products. I have to admit that.
The Swiss Miss. That's new. I love chocolate milk. I love hot chocolate.
Yeah, the hot chocolate. That'll be good for the wintertime.
Yeah, it will be. And Werther's, the caramel coffee. Love those. I hadn't seen those. So, and
this is new.
Sweet tarts. Look at wow, all these things that I like.
Right.
So, raw almonds, sliced almonds. Wow. Nick's going to go crazy.
I am going to go crazy. Time to reorder. It's almost like Christmas every month because I get my Family Dollar Store order comes to my house.
Better beat Mark because
they're shortbread cookies. Whoa, those are good.
Hey, that's the game changer.
Oh man, yeah, this is good stuff.
But Mark heard that you were ordering cookies, so I think he's not here with us today because he's ordering the cookies, Nick. So you better get on there quickly and order them before Mark orders us out of all the cookies.
Well, actually, I get all this stuff from my grandkids. It just doesn't seem to make it to their house because of COVID-19, so it disappears from ours.
But you had the best of intentions, right, Nick?
Yeah, it's the intention. It's the intention.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm just sort of going to leave it at that. Let's help support Money Masters PBS. Why not shop at the dollar store because you're saving money and you're paying forward to Money Masters PBS. We're giving 100% of our profit. They look right on top of these things, and when you do, then Bill can can include as part of his report from Washington, report that Money Masters PBS is getting these great contributions from the online dollar store.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and it's great for Halloween too.
Oh yeah, great for Halloween. Absolutely. We have seasonal items.
They have sweet tarts. So
yeah, just watch this. The one thing we forgot. Oh, I always do it up.
Oh yeah.
The Minion napkins. Join Kimberly's club, the Minion Napkin Club, and order your Minion napkins.
Well, it's a good quality napkin. This is what got me. One, I thought it was funny, right? There's the Minions. I love them. They make me smile. So why not have the napkins, right? And then I get them, and they're not the cheap napkins. They're very good quality napkins. And I thought, wow, how nice is this that I didn't have to go shopping. I saved money. And it's good. Everything I buy has been good quality, from the makeup products to the soaps, toothpaste. Everything has all been good quality items, and I didn't have to shop, which to me is saving money.
Yep, Absolutely.
I don't like to shop. That's my biggest problem. I don't like to go to the stores anymore. Although that's the only time I get to go out is to go to a doctor's office or to the store. But there you go, guys. Very inexpensive. They're good quality. You know, and the thing is so far everything I have purchased from the online dollar store has been good quality. So
I think
agree with
next
you.
time we do this, Nick has to have one of the minions laughing while we're showing the minion napkins. So that's Nick has an assignment for the next time. Look at him.
I'll work on that.
I'd like to get the creators of the Minions interviewed. But yes, but we want to thank the Shepherd family for being our sponsors. They were the first to come forward to sponsor us. From now until the end of September, they have dedicated 100% of our contract as opposed to the 50% that we've agreed upon. And so get out there, buy the things you need, or buy something for someone else. Gift a baby. If there's a baby on the way, we can't get together and do the baby showers that we normally do. Send a box. There's so many baby supplies at the stores, unbelievable, and they're all name brands. Gerber, Pamper, they're all name brands. But get out, and you're not just saving money for yourself. You're sharing with other people. And but then you're also paying forward to a really, really good cause. At least we believe it is, and that's closing the gap between poverty and sustainability by inspiring financial fitness. And you have to excuse me, I feel like I'm losing my voice today. The weather's been a bit odd around here, and with the change of season, sometimes it catches up with me. But
is it raining down there? Because it's really dry here in the Northeast, and my wife's allergies are going crazy because
I have allergies too.
Yeah. It's raining here, so everything.
It's that cold, wet, rainy day that you want to go watch that Harrison Ford movie. What's that called? The Harrison Ford movie that I always like to watch when it's cold and raining.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, that's your favorite movie, I bet.
Star Wars.
No, it's not Star Wars. It's one where he's a scientist and somebody kills his wife.
Oh, that's when he's the fugitive. The Fugitive,
yeah. That's my favorite rainy day movie.
So,
I don't know why. I think it's because it opens up with him running in the rain, and I don't know. But anyway, for me, it's my favorite rainy day movie.
That was the story of a doctor in Cleveland by the name of Sam Shepard, spelled the same way. My father and I used to joke and say, "How's Uncle Sam doing right now?" And sadly, they found out later through DNA testing that, in fact, he was prosecuted, put in jail, and it was the wrong person. And the story he was telling was a true story. So it's interesting. He ultimately was a physician. He lost his license because he went to jail. When he came out, even though they proved that he was not the person that killed his wife, he couldn't get his license back. So he became a boxer of all things, and then sadly passed away. I mean, it's a sad story. But I'm going to finish with that sad story and wish you all well.
We got to thank you, Lynn Shepard from the Family Dollar Store. Thank you for coming.
You.
Really appreciate it.
For good items, easy shopping, and your donations. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
God bless.
All right.
God bless, Lynn.
Take care.
Wow, it's been a beautiful morning. Just visiting with some beautiful people. Rakesh had his birthday today. Dr. Dhawan was celebrating his anniversary. So it's all a good celebrating day. We don't always have to just share the bad news out there. That's what I like about IBM TV is we share the good news. And Nick's got the cheers and everything. But
I don't know.
I have a new toy. What can I tell you?
Okay.
And it's Friday.
I can't believe having a new toy.
I'm gonna buy one
You
of
guys
those
are in a lot of
happy buttons.
Just a lot of trouble over there. IBM TV. This is what you say when you interview the politicians. Right?
Tony Law, you're absolutely right. It is Friday, but more importantly, we get to chalk everything up because I think everybody is commonly accepted. Look, it's 2020. And under that thing, one of the stories I ran across was that Reese's, Hershey's that produces Reese's, they were going to start to put pretzel chunks in the Reese's peanut butter cups. And then when asked, the spokesperson for the Hershey's chocolate company said, "It's 2020. What the blank? Why not?" So,
what? You can't get say that on television.
No, I'm not. No, I mean, we have higher standards here. We have
higher standards.
Right. I'm curious. What is it they're going to put in the peanut butter?
Pieces of pretzels into the Reese's peanut butter cup. So you'll have
Reese's peanut butter cups alone. It's perfect the way it is. I hate it.
They're going to ruin it.
I hate it when they
ruin Reese's peanut butter cups.
I know that. It's chocolate. It's peanut butter.
You're purist.
It's perfect. Don't add jelly to it.
I know.
Don't add pretzels to it. Let me add if I want. But no, just leave it alone. This is what I don't understand.
What's actually interesting about that, because I have the blender, and we were, I think, talking about the juicers before and everything else. But with the blender and the protein drinks and stuff, you take protein, you add, your almond milk or your oat milk and stuff. But then I take liquid Hershey's chocolate, put that in, okay, and then I take, and this is not an endorsement of a particular product, but I take a product that is peanut butter that's creamy, not chunky.
Protein.
And I add that in, and I blend that bad boy up, and I have a Reese's protein drink. And I'm like, yes, yes on that one.
That sounds good, actually. I'm just, there's some things you just don't mess with, and that's one of the combinations that I think they trademarked when I was a kid. I remember when I first saw and fell in love with chocolate and peanut butter. So,
hands down. Look, Reese's Pieces beat M&M's any day of the week. If I see two girls, I'm like, Reese's Pieces.
I like the fact it's healthy and low calorie. So now with that, do we have a fundraiser going on tomorrow? Is that?
Yeah, and I think I've missed playing our banner.
Yeah, let's go see what we have coming up tomorrow. I think it's the fundraiser.
So we've got a fundraiser tomorrow from 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time to 11 p.m. Pacific Coast time. This is for the victims of the fire. Its dual impact is to help raise money to help the victims, but also help musicians that are out there that have duplicates of instruments share with musicians who have lost all of their instruments and equipment. Yeah. So it's a dual fit. They're going to be playing some wonderful, unique music from all over the world all day long. And let me play the fundraiser testimony.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hi everyone, this is Jonathan from Unamore Band, and we want to thank you for being part of this fundraiser to help the musicians and our tribe that have lost their homes and musical instruments and recordings, and just ask you to please donate. And if you have instruments and music equipment or recording equipment that you can donate to help this tribe, it's so much appreciated. All the best to you. Stay safe and enjoy the show.
Good day, everybody. It's Jeff Eichen with the Phoenix Will Rise event, brought to you by IBM.TV. We are having an all-day telethon and fundraiser for the fire victims in California and Oregon. Our musician tribe members lost their studios, their equipment, their computers, and their homes. So step in and join us, please. We will be streaming all day and into the night from 11 to 11 p.m. There'll be Shuni from Guatemala doing an opening ceremony, and there will be Jose Munoz doing a closing ceremony at 11 p.m. So join us. We will be on Saturday Night Alive, the Global Peace Tribe, from 5:30 to 9, and I hope to see you there. And please stay safe, and thank you so much, IBM.TV, for streaming us. Jeff Eichen with The Phoenix Will Rise benefit concert for the fire victims in California and Oregon. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Jonathan from Unamore Band, and we want to thank you for being part of this fundraiser to help the musicians and our tribe.
And I think we already saw that one. For some reason, it recycled through, but brown paper tickets is where you can donate money. It's a very, I think they've done this before, so they're creditable by now, the Rising Phoenix organization. But the thing is that we need to do more benefits like this during this crisis time. And Bill reported something this morning that just kind of shook me up. Are they doing another, how many $1 trillion?
Yes. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has proposed, and they expect the House to pass a new $2.4 trillion plan. And just to put it in perspective, they originally proposed a $3.3 trillion plan, and then they were trying to negotiate with the Republicans in the Senate. The Republicans in the Senate passed a plan of $500 billion, which is 500 billion, clearly not a trillion, not even in the ballpark. The Democrats have come back and they are proposing what they call a slimmed down version, 2.4 trillion. And that's largely because many of the moderate members of the House on the Democratic side are facing pressure in their home districts about why the House of Representatives is not attempting to negotiate with the Senate Republicans to actually find a comprehensive bill. Now, the White House is sending Secretary of the Treasury, Mnuchin, to negotiate, and he said he's open to negotiations. Now, while Congress is set to adjourn next week for the duration until the election, they can get called back to vote on any emergency measure. Right now, it's a shot in the dark, but who knows? This is 2020.
Oh, let me tell you something else I discovered last night in my demise of just, I decided to take a look at what else shenanigans are they doing while we're all distracted. And they were been trying to push in, the Democrats went to, like Biden has always done, taking care of the domestic violence bill that we have. He put it in place in 1994, and he's always made sure that it's been modified to continue to grow to protect victims of any kind of violence. And they wanted the law changed slightly in such that the victims are always protected from any of the offenders from carrying firearms. So currently, as it is, the only offender that has to refrain from carrying a firearm is if the offender had been married to you, or is your father or the father of your children, and if they were related to you in any way of sort. It did not protect you from the offender if having a gun if they dated you or just were pure stalkers or, whatever. And so what they decided to do was try to implement that law. Well, the Republicans don't want it. They're like, no, people have a right to carry a gun, even if they're offenders in law. And that's not true. Mm-hmm. Restraining orders are supposed to prevent you from this. Mm-hmm. The problem is the law was pretty kind of broad in certain ways, and it didn't cover specifically, you know how this goes, Bill, specifically. Yeah. So what happened was when they gave a restraining order to somebody you were dating, they were allowed to go have a gun. So now, and Nick knows this law pretty well because he's kind of kept up with me because of this. So these are some of the shenanigans, other things that we need to bring up too that are happening, that they're doing behind scenes, that it's just going to get, it's going to destroy our lives, because these are just little laws that they're going, oh, we'll just make sure this doesn't happen. And this is, we got to be aware of all of these things. all of them, including the laws for against racism, including the laws and policies we have to stay on top of these other laws. It's just very important.
You're right. And Jean-Hua, your thoughts?
Oh, I was just agreeing that I'm part of this social change movement that's across so many different areas, right? Racism, mental health, economics. There's a lot of revolutions that need to happen. And hopefully Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death can catalyze some of that. We shall see.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely a lot of grief this past week. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, you're right. You bring up a good point that there is a lot of grief given the stand that she had always taken for complete human civil rights. I mean, her bills were very powerful statements.
Mm-hmm.
And upholding the Constitution.
Yeah, and what's even worse, this morning my Wall Street Journal was not delivered.
I give it right.
Yeah, I've seen that document before.
I love it too. I have it too.
Yeah. You have the Wall Street Journal?
I can see it every day.
I don't have that one.
My Wall Street Journal was not delivered, and I missed the intro on the White House reports. But wait a minute. I think I found the White House reports at the top of the hour. So now I can get the White House reports.
Well, if you want to play it just as a reminder.
From IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. There are 38 days and some long nights left until the election. Biden is off the campaign trail as he prepares for the first presidential debate on Tuesday. But appealing to middle America, Biden, who spoke in Wisconsin, said, quote, "I've dealt with guys like Donald Trump my whole life who would look down on us because we didn't have a lot of money or your parents didn't go to college. Guys who think they're better than you, guys who inherit everything they've ever gotten in their life and squander it. The truth is, he never really respected us," end quote. Trump on Thursday signed an executive order on a range of issues, including protecting people with pre-existing medical conditions from insurance discrimination. Critics assert that this latest executive order will have little impact given the protections are already contained in the Obama-era health law Trump is asking the Supreme Court to overturn. Trump was booed on Thursday as he paid respects to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Trump stood silently at the top of the steps of the court, while the crowd chanted below him, "Vote him out." Trump walked back into the courtroom as the chants grew louder. Democratic lawyers are getting ready to challenge any election shenanigans Trump may pull, including swapping electors chosen by voters with electors selected by Republican-controlled legislators. Democrats are running a separate effort to try to block any state recounts like Florida's in 2000 from being cut short by the Supreme Court. On the other side, the Trump campaign has indicated that it will litigate, including suing in key states that have changed election laws to allow for an extended time to vote or count ballots. Separately, Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced a new $2.4 trillion COVID-19 relief proposal. While Congress adjourns at the end of next week through the election, lawmakers could be called back to vote on a deal. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin said he wants to restart talks. In other news, angry restaurant and bar owners are demonstrating in Marseille, France, to challenge a French government order to close all public venues as of Saturday to battle resurgent virus infections. They argue that the central government in Paris is unfairly singling out Marseille for the toughest virus measures in the nation. India reported another 86,052 coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours, but this is a declining trend with recoveries exceeding new cases this week. In the U.S., an analysis published by Citigroup this week states that the lingering racial inequality has cost the economy up to $16 trillion over the past 20 years. Quote, "The 400 years of enslavement of Black populations in the Americas has residual effects that persist to this day, despite tomes of legislation providing equal access to various aspects of American life under the law," end quote. Among the findings, white families have 8 times more wealth than Black households. The U.S. homeownership rate among whites is nearly 80%, compared with only 47% for Blacks. And the total wealth held by U.S. billionaires, some $3.5 trillion, is equal to 75% of all Black wealth combined. In a sign of the times, a bottled water entrepreneur known as the Lone Wolf has replaced Alibaba's Jack Ma as China's richest person after his fortune tripled. The fortune of Zhang Shanshan, who owns China's largest bottled water company, Nongfu Spring, has soared to $58.7 billion. Sales have boomed because the country's tap water is generally considered unsafe for drinking. Also, in a sign of the times, Berkeley, California has a new law. The Healthy Checkout Ordinance requires stores to sell at least 25 feet of healthy items within a 3-foot radius of the registers. The ordinance will affect Whole Foods, CVS, Walgreens, and Safeway. So there you have it. Water sells and healthy food is the law of the land. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins is over 202,819 American souls lost and 983,417 global souls lost, again with no end in sight. That is your report for today, September 25th, 2020, from IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.
That's always a great report. Now the thing is, I don't miss my Wall Street Journal anymore, but I do miss Mark Lee, who's just joined us. Mark. Yeah, we're gonna have to give you a round of applause. Yeah, Mark, welcome to the show.
How are you doing? I'm doing well over here, except for everybody knows. Well, I don't know whether it's doing in DC, but as everybody knows here, we're having rain, so that's always a fun thing to have on a Friday morning and all of that. And I was watching from afar, and I saw that Lynn was here, and Lynn will be very glad to know I did give my order yesterday. I heard y'all were teasing me about whether I had gotten my food supply. I have not tried the pancakes yet. He was wondering if I had tried them, but I did try the noodles. The noodles were good. I still got some left that I've got to have, and I did try the crackers. So I did try several of our food items that you can get from the dollar store. So like I said, that order did come, and I was crunching on those almonds and definitely having some of the other food items. I have not tried those pancakes yet, Bill, but that might be later on today or tomorrow. But that's on the way, and I'll give y'all a report. But so far, everything has been very delicious and very good for me. So I heard y'all teasing me yesterday afternoon, wondering if I was having a meal since I hadn't popped in on that day or that time. So Lynn will be glad to know that the food came yesterday, and I've been enjoying it.
Well, we got to pick on you some more, but we love you. Check this out. We're nearing 1 million deaths on the coronavirus, 32 million cases, 1 million deaths. So I think the fatality rate has been reduced. That gap has definitely been closed for us. But, it still doesn't stop the fact that the permanent damages that the coronavirus can cause, the treatments that have to continue. We hear of reinfected cases. So like we were talking earlier with Dr. Dhawan, is that it's still better to err on the side of caution, right? It's just so much better. But when you look at the stats, because we were talking about, how many have actually happened in the U.S., we are still leading, by, almost double what other countries have just in the deaths alone. I don't know if it's because we're more active, or maybe we have more older people, even though we're a younger country. But when I look at some of the other countries, certainly not more equipped than we are to handle such a situation, they certainly handled the situation far better than we did. So,
and Kim, let's go back to let's go look at the U.S. again, and let's do a little math here. Let's go all the way to the top and look at the United States, because there's a group of people that are trying to downplay this. And, since I run an actuarial firm, we do like to look at the math. Okay, we have 7 million cases. Of that, about 200,000 people die. All right. So let's say the thing is we had 70 million cases, which still isn't even, what is it? Not even half the population of the United States. But it goes up 10 times. Then if my math is right, we'd have about 2 million people die, right? If 70 million got infected. And if we had there's no way we would have 700 million, but let's say we had 350 million or 300 million and change, we would have close to 140 million deaths. I mean, the thing is, you're talking about some very serious death rates here. And this is what I think that people are downplaying. There's this group called QAnon, who stands for "We're incredibly stupid and we don't know math." I think that's what it stands for. But if you looked at the math on this, you're looking at a very high death rate per million. We're looking at 627 people in the United States per million. You multiply it by 300, and you've got a very significant amount of death rate. I mean, in other words, 2 million cases, we got 7 million cases. We got to 70 million. We're going to have 2 million people die. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? We have 140 million. You have 4 million people die. 8 million, 16 million. You're talking about lots of millions of people dying by just taking these numbers and moving it to a total infection rate. So QAnon, or wherever the heck they are, which stands for people that don't know math, barely graduate from high school, or went to college magna cum barely, don't even know what they're talking about, and why they would get any press at all. I mean, do you really want to bring people with morons? Do you really want to bring morons on TV? We're smart television, you know. I listened to some of those people, and I was going like, these people are incredibly stupid. Why would anyone even listen to them? Well, you can just do the math and look at it. Are you even familiar with this group, Bill?
No, I'm certainly aware of the group, and
yeah.
One of their basic tenets as they go through that the conspiracy, the government is out to undermine Trump. But at the end of their analysis, they believe that Trump is almost like a messiah figure in which he alone can save and all the ills that face the United States. However, that's not necessarily, and that is certainly crazy enough. But that's not necessarily the point I want to raise. I think, Nick, that you're raising a point, and that is this: is that it's QAnon and it's these other fringe groups and those people that have the ODD disorder that are creating a barrier to communicating the message that said if we could have 100 million people dead if we pursued their notion of herd immunity. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, Nick, but I mean, you're right. It's scary, and are a barrier to piercing whatever it is that people need to understand to see how serious this stuff is. But go ahead, Nick. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, we're fortunate only to have 7 million infected. At 70 million, you're talking about 2 million people. I mean, a huge amount of people that would die. You're not talking about 200,000, Bill. You're talking about 2 million people.
Right.
And now perhaps with 70 million, you do get the herd immunity that you would actually cap off at around 2 million people.
But people die. I mean, the flip side.
I know, right. Yeah. You're not talking 200,000. You're talking about 2 million people dying. And so when I see these fringe groups that, and I don't look at their CVs that deeply because I don't believe they have any, that their educational level is extremely poor. Their IQs may be worse. And the thing is, they get on and they speak like they have some form of knowledge of medical, actuarial sciences, or anything at all, but other than their own deep-seated beliefs that they believe they know more than anybody else because they grew up in a farm somewhere. I don't know. It just boggles my mind. Now, if you do look at this data, which we do follow routinely here on IBM TV, we do see countries like Malaysia that have done a good job in containing coronavirus. 125 deaths, 128 now on 30 million. And then you also see New Zealand, the same thing. 100 some deaths on about 4 million population. So there are countries that have actually taken this seriously and contained the deaths. Now, I've read some of the arguments. Some of the arguments go, well, the person has heart disease, or they have Alzheimer's, or they're overweight. In other words, they have a pre-existing condition and they die. And hence the thing is, COVID really didn't cause their death. It was pneumonia. But what happened is they can't put one and one together, realizing that COVID created the pneumonia, which they ultimately died from. It's almost like, well, no one actually dies of COVID. It's a flu. But what the flu does, it infects your heart, and then you die of a heart attack. And so you're going, well, he didn't die of COVID. He died of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And so what gets me, Bill, is that there's a whole group of people out there that are ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. Mm-hmm. When all the facts are in front of them, that a person that has reasonable intelligence would make a decision on, they completely object to for whatever reason. And I believe they're not IBM TV listeners. Okay, because they're not going to listen to our show because the thing is we're like way up
I know.
level, maybe.
You implicitly raise another point, and at the risk of sending you off on your soapbox, but I think it's a soapbox you need to hear.
Sure.
The mainstream media, which is controlled by 5 organizations, doesn't even report on this, which is a greater tragedy. I mean, earlier we had the discussions when Bob Woodward's book came out, Rage.
Right.
Then there was a big kerfuffle about whether or not he should have released the tapes earlier because did he have that kind of obligation? Well, fine. I'm not sure how that's resolved. But when it comes to the 5 major media companies that control like 90%
of the media, right? Yep.
The question becomes, do they have an affirmative obligation to do exactly what we are doing here on IBM TV and what you were talking about, Nick? And that is just look at the numbers. And
no, I mean, the thing is, for first of all, I hate to say it, looking at numbers is boring. Okay, and not everybody wants to sit and look actual numbers all day long and looking at coronavirus data all day long. So what they have to do is make it somewhat exciting. So what they do show is people that every now and then they'll show somebody who's young who died on coronavirus. For the most part, they downplay it because it's not that exciting. I hate to say that dying of the flu is not an exciting thing to report on television, So, and if you're in a nursing home, it's even less exciting.
Yeah, not a whole lot of B-roll action there.
Yeah, not a whole lot of B-roll action in a nursing home. I mean, the thing is, hey, let's go to a nursing home. What are we going to do? We're going to take some pictures. Well, they're not even allowed in the nursing home to take pictures, so you'll go outside the nursing home to take pictures. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about a body bag going out? There's nothing interesting. There's nobody bleeding. There's no riots. There's nothing exciting to film. So what happens, the whole coronavirus thing gets shoved aside. Mm-hmm. Now, if we do nothing, because this is 200,000 and we're attempting to do something, mm-hmm. and we had 70 million infected, we would have about, if the data holds consistent, 2 million people who pass away. Now at 2 million, would that be interesting? I don't know, but eventually when you get into the millions, it's going to start affecting a lot of people's families as the body bags are being taken out with people coronavirus. And that's all the bad news. Good news, I do believe that the FDA and our MD PhDs, which are, by the way, smart people, are on track to get a vaccine in by next year sometime, which will be May, June, July. And the FDA already said that this is the tracking that they're looking at, and that is the reality. It's next year, May, June, July. And there's a lot of people I've seen, we can't wait that long. Well, if you're dead, you can wait a long, long time. Let me tell you that. Okay. In other words, you got plenty of time in the graveyard, my friend. Right. Okay. But if you're alive, you could actually wait, believe it or not, till May of next year. It's not that far. And for those who went to law school like you did, Bill, it's a 3-year sentence. Certainly you could wait a couple months.
Yeah.
you go.
Law school is a lifetime sentence.
Law school can be a 3-year sentence, but this can be a lot longer, and not just in death. As we were discussing today, the damages that it can cause, the permanent damages, But when I look at some of the smarter countries, which we know that they had a pandemic plan in place, I mean, I look at Iceland.
Yeah, this is horrible. Iceland has no new deaths. What is wrong with Iceland? This is incredible. Total deaths 10. That is horrible. What are they? Deaths per million? 29.
Schools never stopped. They never shut down, and they had very few tests. So they were smart. They go, let's don't test the people who are already sick. Let's test the people and find hot zones. So we're going to just sporadically test certain areas, locate the hot zones before they spread, and contain it. They had a pandemic team. They had a pandemic plan in place. Hong Kong the same. Nigeria has done a fabulous job. Their death rates are very, very low. Compared to the rest of the world. I think they're like in the
look at the Cayman Islands. And by the way, if anybody's been to Grand Cayman, it's a beautiful island, great place to hang out.
The population is low, but the populations that are low that don't even have the resources to control this had more odds of killing the whole country. But there you have, Hong Kong has
Hong Kong 104, and they have like 7 million people.
But what happened was they were in the double digits until about 3 or 4 weeks ago when they had what I call a tourism spike. When they opened up, And they remember they had a spike, so they had to kind of shut things back down again.
By the way, Australia, look at their numbers: 869 total deaths, not infection, total deaths. Their population is close to 30 million people. 869 total deaths. They don't even have 1,000 deaths on 30 million, but they're very strict about this. They're very serious. They actually hit people with $4,000 fines if you're not wearing your mask in public. I mean, where here in the U.S., it's like, hey, I'm going to a rally. I'm going to go wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask because I'm just going to rally. Are you kidding me?
Look at New Zealand. Look at New Zealand.
Didn't we have a pandemic team at one point as well? Because I think that there was a pandemic team.
We did, Mark. That was disbanded by your president. So the thing is, this is just let you know, since we don't have the foreigners on, they would say, hey, your president disbanded. New Zealand had 25 deaths, and their population's about 5 million. 4 million and change. So whenever you go through this data, and this is international data, this is very important because Americans never look beyond the United States. And it's the same arguments in our prison system and our war on drugs, which we should get into someday, because the real Taylor problem was because of our failed policy on the war on drugs, which some of these countries don't have that. They have treatment centers. And when if they had treatment centers, it decriminalized the drug industry, Taylor would never have occurred. It would never occurred because there's no reason for a no-knock warrants to go after drugs that no one really cares about anyway. And so the thing is, who has that policy? Australia does, by the way. In other words, and if you follow their system, which is superior to the United States in terms of how they treat drugs, and so is New Zealand, you'll find out they're getting a better result than here in the United States. It is not uncommon to see today, because the United States fails to look outside its own borders for better guidance, that a lot of our policies are failures. And that even goes to the PISA scores, which are the scores in math, science, and we don't have Rakesh on, that the United States ranks like 27 out of the 180 countries. We're not even in the top 10. Another failure because we failed to look outside the borders. And this is, I think, great data. I like to see it every week because it just tells me that one of our problems is we do not look at other examples outside the United States for solutions. We look inward, which is a mistake.
Right. Okay, so I'm curious here. The Vatican City, only 12 cases total. No other reported.
12 cases total.
We need to move there.
And that's in Italy. It's like a mile. It's a square mile. I don't think the population is that great. So 12.
No, but there's definitely got to be something going on there. Some heavy duty players.
I think it is. I think they're only concerned about one person in Vatican City.
Yeah, that's true. That one person got it.
So
notice the Diamond Princess 13. Okay, that's called cruise lines. They're petri dishes for coronavirus, and most of them are shut down today because of that. You remember, this is all going to be over with. Sorry, guys. In what is it? Probably June, July next year, May, June, July.
No, it won't. It's going to.
Oh, you're going to create another coronavirus?
No. Actually, they're already up to. The reports are between 30 and 60 different variations.
Oh yeah, the variations. I mean, the thing is,
but it's going to take time for the whole world to get vaccinated. Because just because people get vaccinated here in the United States, they say it's going to take months, not weeks. When it eventually is made available, because we have 330.
It's interesting you said that. Somebody on the internet actually made a cogent statement because they have the regular flu vaccines coming out in the United States right now, not for coronavirus, just for the regular flu. And the person said, well, I wear a mask and I socially distance. Do I really need to take a flu vaccine? And I thought that was a pretty good question, because if you do take proper precautions, social distance, wearing masks, it should mitigate the effects. At least it does, according to SSRN.com.
That makes perfect sense, because if you're social distancing, then you're not going to get COVID because you're doing it. Sure. You wouldn't catch the flu.
I that's what I thought. I was going,
we're talking about social distancing, and we've got all these folks that are doing things that are supposed to be about social distancing, and trying to do it within the confines of that. But I'm wondering, to the two of y'all, how are you feeling about like stadiums opening? Because there are a lot of places where stadiums are starting to open, and there was a big buildings. Yes, they say that they're going to keep people socially distanced, but if you're going to the hot dog stand or you're going to the restroom at these places, how much actual social distancing are you going to do in those kind of environments? Like I said, you can separate the people.
Look, I don't see a problem in May, June, July next year, to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm looking, because of following the FDA guidance, I'm looking to actually book my trip to Europe in July, because I want to get out of North Carolina. It's too hot. My wife hates it, and I was going to go to Copenhagen. I've already checked out the flights. Copenhagen actually is cheaper than going to Glasgow, Oslo, or Stockholm, and just spend the month in Europe hanging out. But the thing is, right now, I go, well, I don't want to book anything sooner than that, because I don't want to risk getting on an airplane. Although one airline is doing instant testing, which sounds interesting. And I think it's United, where everybody get tested as they go on. And we actually talked about that at IBM TV in March. You have to go way back to our data, and you'll see us talking about that. And that might actually work. But what also works is our important person from India has just arrived. Ankit, welcome to the show.
He's having too much fun with his new toy, in case you can't tell.
I have a new toy. I have a new toy.
Going on today, so I was just working on the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a technical problem on the broadcast.
First, it seems only fair that if Nick gets the toy, that we should all get the toy, because
I'd
like to be able to boo while he's cheering.
I get the toy, and no one else gets the toy, and that is,
Nick,
I get the toy, and I'm the only one who
got
gets
the
the
gift
toy.
and doesn't want the other person to get the gift. We're only a few months away from
Christmas.
I
get the toy. No, you don't get the toy.
You're like, no, nobody else can have that toy. Nobody else can have it. I remember these days from when I was a kid. So like I said, Bill's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. He knows that, like, if the cousin got the toy, you were sitting there going, I want that one too.
Okay, well, there's only one thing. We got to pull. I gotta tell that kid to be quiet. Quiet. Sorry about that.
Bill, on a serious note, though, I know that you are a fan of a lot of different kinds of music, jazz, classical, a number of other kind of music, as am I. And I just saw, I think it was a day or two ago, speaking of folks that are putting things way back, the Met Opera in New York has said, nope, not even thinking about it till September of next year. So they've already said that they're not even thinking about open till September of 2021. So we're talking about a year from now.
That is probably correct when you say that. That's what I'm looking at. In other words, I was going to go to New York, because New York, the last week they have they have Broadway week and they have Restaurant week. It's the last week, but I can't go there because I don't think they're going to have the vaccine ready until like May, June, July. And so right now I'm planning for May, June, July to go back. Maybe I'll go visit Ankit, during that time, but that's going to be May, June, July. It's not going to be early.
But how about visiting New Zealand, Canada? I think they have few cases as compared to US and India.
Well, in July though, Ankit, it should be over with, and so my plan was to go to Copenhagen, Oslo, and Stockholm and hang out because it's too hot here. And I would go to India, but I think it's too hot there too. I think it's better to go to India during the fall or the winter time, but not during the summertime. But and the flights are real cheap into Copenhagen. It's actually cheaper to go to Copenhagen than to go to Glasgow, London, or Paris. And even though your flight stops in Paris, then goes to Copenhagen, it's cheaper because the landing fees. So when you're checking out the landing fees, it's like $900 round trip to go to Copenhagen, but it's $1,200 to go to Paris, even though your flight goes through Paris on to Copenhagen. So,
And we'll have some Travel Tuesdays with Brandon.
Yeah, we'll have Travel Tuesday with Brandon because, hey, also 4-star, 5-star hotels, $50 a night in Copenhagen. Don't ask why. But I mean, a 4-star or a 5-star hotel for $50 a night. And it's not just one, there's a lot of them. So I'm like really sold on going there. Hey, it's cheaper for me to hang out there than it is to stay here with our electric bills, and
I mean, wait a minute, what electric bills? There's no electric bills anymore. We're all on like that.
No, we're not on solar.
They're not even charging right now, but they're giving it to folks free for now, electricity. But the bad part about that, as Bill knows, being one that is involved in politics and everything is that it sounds good in theory, but you still get the bills. They keep coming. So you just watch the numbers go up and up and up. So like I said, while they are not turning off anything or they're not, they're doing
Right.
like.
Actually, Mark, that is an excellent point. And in this regard, because people are, it's going to be like a sudden shock. And Nick,
Right.
this is important. And that's because on the one hand, the companies are, supporting and keeping the internet and those things going. And that's great for the time in need. But when the vaccines are available, those companies are going to say, okay, now the national emergency is over. And then they're going to send a cumulative bill for the entire time that people have been in forbearance. And those bills are going to be large, and people will still not be gainfully employed. And even if they are, they will not have built up enough assets to start to hit those bills. So when you talk about the collection of the bills, gas, electric, cable, or internet, phone, those are going to be massive bills. And
well, let's see what our audience thinks about massive bills. They don't like massive bills.
They don't like massive bills.
But I have a question for you. Basically, if we just eliminate the travel tax for next 2 years, would that help in improving the condition of the travel and hospitality industry?
Eliminating the taxes?
No. You mean if we stopped international travel for the next 2 years, would that help?
No. What I'm saying is that if we eliminate the travel taxes around the world, because traveling is one of the biggest tax-pay industry in the world. So if we just eliminate the tax for next 2 years, then we give them some kind of a tax haven program, and then let them come back to the.
Yeah, okay. That would help.
No, Nick, I get to go first because you have all the toys, and that's an unfair advantage. So this is the way that would work. That would be a disaster for the pandemic, because everybody like Nick with the silver spoon in his Maserati would go traveling around the world, and they may not be responsible. They may not have to go to other places. They will then come on back, and they will spread it around, and then they will go back into their gated communities, and then we'll be left, because we're stuck and we have no place to go, with dealing with the outgrowth of their jet set lifestyle. Nick.
Yeah, but see, I don't see the problem with that, Bill. I certainly understand that there's a certain group that will have problems with it, but I don't see a problem. I certainly don't want to pay more for travel, but it would be nice for me to travel first class by myself than have to actually sit with other people. So I do kind of like that whole idea.
You just solved a puzzle for me, Bill. I'm glad that you solved this puzzle, because I've been trying to figure this out for a long time. You solved a puzzle that has been a mystery here in Durham, and I'm glad that you finally have solved it. But here in the big city of Durham, there's this compound, and people around it always wonder what's going on in the compound, because nobody knows who lives there. Nobody knows what's going on in the compound. And now I've discovered Nick lives in the compound. So now
it's not a compound. Okay, it's where everybody lives. It's called gated community. Okay, gated community, and the places I live, they all have gated communities. Till I moved up here, and Briar Creek doesn't have a gated community. I was appalled, but it is what it is here in Durham.
In Dallas,
County,
Texas,
all gated communities in Palm Beach.
In Dallas, Texas, they have a mini city inside of Dallas called Highland Park, and Highland Park they had their own police department. Mm-hmm. They had their own, like you said, it was all gated.
Yeah, right. We had that.
Had their own laws, their own rules.
Yeah, we had that. What's wrong with that?
Well, no, hang on. we might find common ground here.
Yeah, right. Wait. You're telling me you guys don't live in gated communities?
No. Actually, I would have to admit, because we here have a higher standard of honesty, and that is this.
We do. Right.
While I don't live in a gated community, I do live in a we're reclusive community, and I happen to love it. And so, yes, it's like life is like night and day. When I go outside the gates, the world out there is just as opposed to in here. So, Nick, that's not a bad deal. And Mark, you're right. I'm a sellout at this point, but I'm old, and I'm more concerned about myself. You know the old saying.
Oh, there we go. He's a Republican man. He's concerned.
No.
Go ahead, admit it.
Well,
Neither Nick nor deny. I'm concerned about myself.
I know you know that.
Trying to join the right.
If you're not a liberal by the time you're 20, you have no heart, and if you're not a conservative by the time you're 30, you have no brain. So it's one of those things that, just like, because I'd like to be around for a little while to maybe, visit Nick in his gated community.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, the thing is, we go to the club, of course.
Well, there's something to be said about the convenience of having all of those resources available at your fingertips. And gated communities have their pluses and minuses, just like living in a resource community, as I call them, where all your resources are right there at your fingertips, which I always thought would be fun, to live in a resource community where you could walk to wherever you wanted to go. It sounds like Lynn lives in a community like that because he goes to the post office to pick up his mail. He probably knows everybody in the town. And so I think there's, like you said, Bill, as you get older, you start respecting those things a little bit more.
But also in Palm Beach County, where I lived, and I think your friend Trump has a place there, the Mar-a-Lago, 85% of the county, almost 90%, are gated communities. In other words, Bill, it's not like you live in Palm Beach and you're going to live in a non-gated community. You're going to live in a gated community. That's just the way it is. And your kids are going to get picked up by Rolls Royces. That's what they did, and go to private schools. That's the way life is. And yes, the average car is a Mercedes, and then you have nice cars. In other words, you got the Mercedes, but then you also have the nice cars out there, the Ferraris. And you have the Lamborghinis, and you have, go to Boca sometime where they don't drink coffee.
Like I said, I worked there for a while, so I know that environment.
Yeah, you know that. I'm telling you the truth, right, Mark?
Very much telling the truth. There are those kind of communities. But I've got a question for Ankit and for everybody else that breathes the question that folks just brought up and everything is, one of the things that I've admired about not just Ankit and India, but a number of other folks is that they actually, because of the way that they're raised, they have a lot of their grandparents still with them. They have a lot of their parents still with them and things of that nature. So they actually do know a lot of the people around them. Unfortunately, here in America, we don't always know the folks around us, including in gated communities. So that's what I was going to ask is, like, I bet you, and it's just my guess, Ankit can probably tell us about 50 to 70 to 100 people that are around him, their names, a little bit about them, things of that nature. I'm lucky if I can tell you about the folks next to me in the apartment where I live. I know that one of my neighbors just moved, so I'll meet some new ones shortly whenever the new ones move in. But Nick, you live in a gated community. How many of your neighbors do you actually know?
I used to live in a gated community when I was south of Raleigh, but now I moved up to Briar Creek, and it's not gated. But it's pretty nice. It's just not gated, and it was appalling. But Raleigh doesn't have a lot of gated communities.
We're not allowed to.
It's not like where I'm from, and Palm Beach County. So
why would they not allow? I mean, I don't think that they could forbid.
It's just, hey, here's the problem, Bill. Raleigh is just uncivilized. It doesn't have a lot of gated communities.
There's only one gated community in this whole area, and it's weird how they got it passed through, but all the millionaires live over here. They don't have a gated community. But across the street from them, an apartment complex got a gated community. I lost it. But it's all about how, but I will share this, that I actually knew somebody who lived in a gated community behind a guard gate.
Wow.
So he didn't even want his gated community knowing and coming to visit him, even on Halloween. And so he had this, so you would drive through the gated community, go to the guard, and then they would pass you through. And then you drove through this gated community to a guard to his house.
Wow.
Right. Okay. Hey, Bill, the thing is, in Palm Beach, it's called the policy of exclusion. Okay. We have a club and you're not in it. If you're not in it, you're not welcome. And that's the club down there. I mean, I'm totally familiar with that lifestyle. So the thing is, the Everglades Club. Are you familiar with the Everglades Club and the Shiny Sheets?
No.
Probably not. But see, the Everglades Club is one of the most exclusive clubs in Palm Beach County. It's a nice little club, and if you're not in, you're not invited in. And the Shiny Sheets, even Trump can't get into the Everglades Club because he's not a DAR or a SAR. I mean, if you're not a daughter of the American Revolution or son of American Revolution, which he's not, he's excluded. The reason he bought Mar-a-Lago, and everybody in Palm Beach knows this, is because he's excluded from the communities, and he's never on the shiny sheets, which in the shiny sheet is what they publish every week in Palm Beach for all the people that are in the social know, which he's not one of them. So he got really mad, and he ran for your presidency or something like that, moved to Washington. So, I mean, because he can't make it in Palm Beach County. And you know what he did with Mar-a-Lago? He turned it into a country club because he couldn't maintain it. Because one problem with these mansions, which people don't know about, is you got to maintain it. You know, you have to have the gardener, the pool man, all this stuff. And he didn't want to spend all the money that it cost to maintain the Mar-a-Lago. So he turned it into it's actually a private club. It's not really his house. He may have a little part of it, but it's not his house anymore. Oh, you know what his purchase price was for that? Only $8 million. He bought it.
Only 8 million.
Yeah, it was only $8 million, because one problem. See, this is what a lot of people don't know about these mega mansions, Mark, is the maintenance. In other words, see the downstroke isn't the problem; it's the maintenance, and that's the reason when we go to Samoti Palace over in the Enkit way, we'll rent out the palace. We ain't gonna buy the palace. I mean, are you kidding me? If you had to buy the palace, it'd be expensive, but that's not the problem. You got to maintain the palace. That's the problem. Let them maintain the palace. You just rent it for a week and, you know, have a good time over there. And Ankit will hang out there, and we'll take over the palace for a week for IBM TV. Yeah, but people like to do stuff like that. Okay. You know, I mean, it's just like, remember, Kim, we went to Las Vegas, rented out the mansion, and you get to hang out at a mansion. That's cool. And then you turn the mansion back to them, let them deal with it. Or like in England, where you rent out a country estate. You do that for a week or so, have a good time, then turn it over back to the owners, let them have to deal with all the maintenance.
That's what I like about Airbnb with the mansions. I don't know if you've tried that, but well, we did. That's right, we did that when we filmed.
That was in Las Vegas.
Money Masters, but we Airbnb'd a mansion, and it was way cool because when you're done, okay.
Yeah, you just turn the keys back over, and they can have the bloody power.
You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to. Yeah, you just use it, right?
Yeah, you use it, and they do all the work. They keep it. I mean, seriously, the Samoti Palace is really nice over. And that when Ankit showed me that, I was totally sold on going to India. I am there as soon as coronavirus is over with. We'll hang out there for a week or 2 or 3, maybe a month, who knows. But then when we're done, we turn the keys of the palace over to them, because who really wants to maintain a bloody palace? It's a lot of work. You know, there's always something falling down. There's something that needs to be cleaned. I mean, come on.
Well, we'll have to have Prince Constantine on and ask.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, we should do a show on Palace 101. You know, how you go from palace to palace, but you do not buy the palace, because then you buy a nightmare.
I was watching a documentary on the maintenance and upkeep of for decorating castles. Not so much the maintenance and upkeep period, but just having to decorate them on a continuous basis. You know, and the interior decorators that come in, and that was not that I'm into that kind of stuff, but it just caught my attention. I was like, wow, that's an interesting show.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know,
I'll tell you something important. I'll tell you something important. I mean, we have a lot of palaces, and we have a lot of forts in India, and then very few companies and very few construction companies, they know how to maintain it. And we don't use any cement or anything like that, or wood on that. They have a different plaster which we create out of some basically stone, and then we use that basically because that is more strong, and that is more vulnerable, and that is more, in fact, all season kind of a thing basically.
Yeah.
So it does in a different manner, and only few. I mean, it's a monopoly business. Only 1 or 2 companies in India, they know how to do it. That's it.
Right. Yeah, because the thing, and see that's the reason when we saw, because there's a lot of nice mansions in Palm Beach. We saw Trump buy that one. We were going like, is this guy out of his mind? Does he know how hard it is to maintain the Mar-a-Lago? It's 108,000 square feet. That is a big piece of property, and you can only live in so many bedrooms. So what do you do the rest of them? You got to keep them up. Well, the guy's an idiot.
It's difficult to read for it because they
didn't understand that, you know, because he's living in Trump Tower. Trump Tower is a bloody townhouse. It's not a house. Yeah. And so it took him a while to figure out, oh boy, this is a lot of work. So that's the reason he parceled it off. We all knew.
I agree with that. I didn't want a hard or difficult house to end up maintaining. You know, I kind of designed things just in case I could not afford someone to maintain it for me. I made it. But, you know, I do want to mention something to Ankit about the plaster maintenance. You know, we learned that hemp makes a really good solid plaster, right, from Jeff. And it makes, and also there's a concrete that they make in Canada, with Sasha was that. In Canada, they make a concrete that is bulletproof.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Bulletproof?
Bulletproof concrete. Yep. So I met the person who was selling for the manufacturer, and yeah, it's bulletproof. So I'm like, well, gosh, I need to take this guy and sell it to the Trump wall. And
yeah.
I'll tell you one more interesting thing. When you talk about the bulletproof thing, we have a plaster which we are using in our rural villages, which is known as organic plaster. And generally what happens is that whenever you do a plaster or use a paint or something like that, that has a lot of chemicals. Over a period of time, you're consuming those chemicals because over a period of time, the color of your wall diminishes. And where is that color going? The color is going either on your faces or on your body or on your food over a period of time. To work on that, we are using cow dung and creating a plaster out of it with different natural perfumes, which is cooler in hot summer and which is hot in winters. Basically, it's a natural process, and people have started using it. It's completely organic.
You know, the Native American Indians did something similar.
Yes,
they used the dung. Yeah, so because of the insulated properties. So absolutely, it is. You know, I think it's interesting, but it's great recyclable mode, right? But again, the hemp plaster that we saw, that blew me away. I don't know if you were there, but Jeff was showing, you know, you could grow hemp in
I remember that.
A hard plaster.
I've seen that. Yeah, the ball that the Jeff was showing basically.
Yeah,
right.
It's a hard plaster, and you can literally turn this into a house, into and you know, any exterior thing that you need.
Turn it into a bomb.
It probably is. But
excuse me.
I'd like to see fireproof capacity of these things, because you know, that's another thing. That's one of the reasons why I like the steel homes that Homes has, is the fireproof, hurricane proof. Of course, the glass isn't. You know, a lot of the steel homes have a lot of glass. But steel in itself, and I don't know that the insulation is up there yet, but they're working on it. They've got certain paint now that causes it to become insulated. So I mean, there's just so many great things out there.
Yeah, we got to find out what Holmes is doing more on those homes, because Holmes is doing on homes. That's pretty interesting. But the thing is, what was interesting today, they were saying one problem that people in the United States is affordable housing here.
Yes.
It is a big problem, because if you look at the numbers again, and I know that people like to look at them, the average person with the average salary can't afford an average home, because the housing prices here are out of the control. And part of it is they're not building enough, and they're not building enough affordable housing. I mean, it's just I don't get it. I mean, I like going, like I said, I'll go to Denmark and for $50 a night stay in a 5-star hotel, but over here you can't get that.
No, I mean, to put this in context, just so, because affordable housing, people really can't wrap their heads around it. Here are the basic numbers. The average price of a home in the United States is about $300,000 or $400,000.
Right. Yeah.
To a house or whatever, and most people can't afford that. So it's not like they can't afford a home and the home's $1 million. It's rather that on their current salaries, middle class, working, and because the report I saw on that compared it to Archie Bunker and what his wages were compared to his ability to afford the house now, and so it was completely just out of reach. And so, but you're not talking, $800, $900 million. You're talking like $300,000 or $400,000, and people can't get it. So you're absolutely right. But to put it in context, it's that small. Yeah, right. Well, that's what I'm saying, Bill, and it's something that we should address here on IBM TV, because we're smart people, smart television, but our housing here is a big problem. I mean, the thing is, to me, it's unaffordable based on what people are making, and even here in Briar Creek, I look at the housing prices. I go, how do these people afford the house here? Off a regular wage. Unless they're going huge into debt.
Nick, it's incredible the way that the houses are. And actually, we've had the pleasure, and I will bring her back at some point. She's actually been on, I think, twice. But there's actually a housing advocate that came in on International Peace Day. So Stella Adams is actually very much involved in that field and involved in a lot of that combat and fight, for lack of a better word, and everything. So she's definitely involved in that. But what you have to add to it is that not only are the houses kind of the prices that Bill is talking about, but then you also have to look at the fact that apartment prices are also going up, which then adds to what's happening, because here in the Research Triangle Park area, there are a number of places that are in the $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 a month range and everything. And we're not even talking about DC and New York, where it's even more ridiculous and everything. So definitely you have to add that into the conversation as well.
I'm totally with you, Mark, because the thing is that when I moved up here to Briar Creek, I was going to rent, but I was going to so expensive to rent, I just bought the townhouse. And then the thing is, I'm going like, this is crazy, because if you're renting a place here, all the money you're making is going to your bloody landlord. I mean, I'm sitting there just mind boggled with the cost. And as you know, in other cities, it's even more expensive than Raleigh, where we left in Seattle. It was twice as much there. But what you have is a whole group of people that, frankly, either can't afford the house, or you're working all the time just to afford the rent. I mean, it's just, you know, and the wages certainly haven't kept up, except for the 1%. They've done quite well. As a matter of fact, the demographics all show that being in the 1% works, so I do appreciate that. But listen, there's that other 99% out there that are getting their rears handed to them.
But
they have to.
The other crazy thing, and I think Kim had a point that she was going to make, but the other crazy thing is that what happens also is that there is a lot of stereotypes that exist. Like I said, I am a big admirer of what Ankit does, what I think also Brother Mike does as well, living in like these kind of environments where it's multiple generations. But as you know, and as Bill knows, and as even Kim knows, if you tried that in the United States, a lot of folks would automatically put you in a certain kind of like class and put you as not giving you all that kind of respect, whereas it's very much respected in other countries and other communities. But unfortunately, it isn't as respected here to live in a multi-generational kind of environment. And I think that's something that is a shame.
I mean, that's change.
I mean, we have a family back in US as well, and they 3 generations live together in US. So it's in a culture basically, and we have seen that since we are, young people. And in fact, previously, they were like 3 generations with 3 different, brothers. So every brother is having 3 generations and they all are living together. But now what happened is that they're talking about their own family tree because of bigger families and a lot of, utilities and other issues, and they need bigger house and all those stuff. So that's where they have divided. But if they divided, still they are nearby. So they are within the same radius of like 500 to 1 kilometer. They live all together. And it just click of a button and everyone will be on your at your home. Helping you out and in your joy and sorrow and all those problems. So that's the part of the culture. In fact, whenever we have a wedding in India, usually our family list is like around 250 to 500 people. Only family. I'm not talking about friends. And then we have to
add they had a movie here, Ankit, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. They should have just have my big super big Indian wedding.
But you also give it Ankit a hard time. But you know, Ankit, one of the things I always wanted.
I have to tell you one more important thing. Yes. So what happened is that in one of our cultures as well, whenever we have 4 generations living together and celebrating a birthday of the youngest person in the family, we used to have a concept called golden stairs, which we called CD basically, and we try to give some kind of gold to that 4th generation guy who is the eldest in the family, just to make sure that he has seen 3 generations in his lifetime, which is very rare. So we celebrate that moment as well.
Wow, that is one of the things I want
because they all get along over there. See, that's the difference, Mark. Okay, the thing is, we fight over here. The Indian people, they all get along. They all love each other. Here, the thing is, I was going, boy, that's great, but I can imagine if I moved in with my kids and my grandkids, we'd be in a fight tomorrow about something. So that's the reason we live apart here. We're there, they all get along.
It is the way we are.
We take a lot of status, but the problem is that we try to respect the elders. And whatever happened, we just try to ignore and let it go and just keep on doing things. We also fight basically, but we just don't. We just forget it after a point of time because family is more important than all those egos.
Wow. Okay, I'll refrain, counselor. They're super wonderful, nice people over there. They're not like Americans. Let's get real.
But Tim, they have this great other thing too. They also have, and I don't know whether Ankit had it, but when I'm still on the board of the Carolina Theater, but when I had a friend that worked there, they used to rent for some of their weddings and everything. I think they replaced the elephant with a horse, but that whole idea of having an elephant at the wedding is a wonderful thing. So, Ankit, did you have an elephant at your wedding?
Horse. It's generally horse. Basically, what happens is that so basically the groom, he come by horse. That's a tradition. Although we have some kind of a horse with a person bullet cart kind of a thing. But nowadays, elephant is just for show. Elephant is just for showcasing the big fat wedding. Horse is a tradition.
So in my family, we fly in on the broom. But anyway, so I want to recap a little something here that's very interesting. I had to throw that one in. If my sister's listening, she would definitely lose it because we have a joke about that. But definitely, I would fly in on a broom if I could. But I want to recap something here that is just very profound that we kind of delved in on. One is the humility of group living, which I find very wonderful with Hispanics too. But let's talk about this, Nick, because you made something, a good statement, and Bill, you did too, when you talked about the Archie bunker thing. Is just one generation ago, and I know this because I used to go to the celebrations, the families would pay off their house.
Mm-hmm.
The houses were established, the cost of a home was established so that you could afford to pay it off. So then you would have this like burning of the mortgage bill. You remember this, guys?
Yeah.
That was just one generation ago. And now today, because of the McMansions that they were stamping out, the stupid mortgage that they were giving to people where you pay, what was it, interest only for a while, and then they split it, and then you started, and then it doubled in price, and so many people went into foreclosure. All of these things were generated by the government, all of these policies in coercion with all of the banks in the top 1%, so that we could fail, so that we become indentured to paying our debts and bills as opposed to ever paying them off. Just like the school student debt. It just baffles me that some students graduate with a debt higher than a mortgage.
It really bothers me because I just don't know where their trust funds are. So what can I say?
Well, and I mean, Nick, and that's maybe something that we can teach people.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. To me, the student debt thing is just absolutely appalling. I mean, it's ridiculous. But we will have to discuss that.
It's very appalling too, and I think Bill's got a point. But the other thing that's very appalling is the fact that it kind of comes back to what Kim was talking about, is that for many generations, folks bought a house and they passed that house down from generation to generation. So it was actually a form of an asset that could be used by the family. So that was going on for a number of generations. I know for a fact that my mom and her 3 sisters, well, actually only 2 sisters are living right now, but they have got property in rural North Carolina that is being used by the family. So like I said, one of my cousins is actually living in one of those houses. So that's one of the things that folks have to do, which I think a lot of other countries are doing better than us right now. They are actually doing better of passing down the house from generation to generation. Whereas, unfortunately, as you know, Bill, because of the kind of travel nature of the world and everything, a lot of folks are not necessarily trying to keep the family houses. They're excited about getting that job in the big city or wherever they're going to, and are trying to find either an apartment or a new house or something of that nature. But it's not enough of the passing from generation to generation that used to exist in the past. So that's something that I think that we lost greatly. I think that that's an opportunity that was actually lost in the minority community, and there are several political reasons for that as well. But definitely it's something that was going on that I would encourage folks to get back into, is getting houses and trying to encourage them to pass it on from generation to generation, see it as an asset.
No, Mark, I mean, the challenge with that is it takes time. I mean, like, I got to buy the house. And so then I'm like, well, listen, I bought the house. Why, and I might be moving my maker in 5 years. Why wouldn't I just refinance and spend all my money and let the kids decide what they want to do the house, as opposed to me buying the house, paying it off, and then everybody else waits, and then I pass on, and then they throw a party in the house without me. How's that fair?
I know, and that's where I feel like I've seen where now banks will do a reverse mortgage.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, my God, I shouldn't have to go through a reverse mortgage so I can exist until my dying days. And then reverse mortgages scare me because my conspiracy mind comes in and I go, what if I sign this and then they send a hitman after me and somehow or another but sorry guys, that's how my brain thinks. But so we take a look at all of this. I mean, I can't afford my medical care right now, right? The way that they've designed our society, today's Med Friday, I can't even afford the health care we have. I don't care what Obama put in place. I'm sorry, I read that bill. It was not put in place for affordable health care. It was in place for insurance. It was not put in place for affordable health care. And there is a difference in my book.
It was a start. It was a start. And
it was a start, but there wasn't a finish, and there should have been a finish.
Okay, well then that's.
But the thing is somebody started it, and even if they left office, just like Biden has done with the victims bill, they should have stayed on it. They should have stayed on that mission, and they should have made sure that it was completed. Even if they're tired and busy, somebody should have taken on the action to maybe it should have been me, but that bill was long.
No, you're absolutely right that there needs to be a follow through, and maybe we're just now beginning to get the larger picture now that we're forced into this new normal that we have with social.
Well, this is not this will not be a normal at all. I don't think we're going to see anything that we can establish as normal. We're going to have to start new and build our villages again. We're going to have to rebuild our lifestyles. We're going to have to rebuild. And we're in a new book. We're not even in a new chapter. They keep going. Let's do this. The next sets of $1 trillion is not. If they don't make any changes on how they dispersed it last time, it's not going to do anything for us. There is not going to be any good come out of it, except that it's going to disappear like the first one did and sit in somebody's bank account. And maybe that's really why John got rich. Maybe somehow or another that money filtered into his bank account. I don't know, because nobody can show me where all that money went.
Well,
seriously.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that's a slightly more complicated issue in this regard. What we have on the one hand is our economy literally is on the brink, and the rest of the media, the big pod, they won't tell us. And government officials won't tell us. That's why when they actually sit down and privately and they're having their caucuses and everything else, they're looking at the raw economic data. And that is why all the central banks around the world are looking at monetary stimulus packages, because they know if they don't do it, then our economy can fall off the cliff.
Oh, we're going to fall off the cliff, yeah.
They're not telling us about it. And so that's challenge one. So I hear you when you take up the cause of wasted money. And you're absolutely right about that. And we should all keep an eye on the bottom line. But the problem is, and that includes theft and things falling off the truck and the VIG for the loan shark and all that other stuff. The cost of doing business, as some people or some groups refer to. But the problem is that if we don't do it, then the economy teeters. So
that's why I said we just need to think better about what we do with it, right? How we stimulate with it. Like, I love what the UK did with the vouchers, right? What a brilliant way to make sure people eat, even people who can't afford to eat, and keep the restaurants and your local economy stimulated.
Absolutely.
Okay? Those are things that we need to be putting in place. We should be sending out test kits to people, not a $300 monthly check. A test kit will get me back to work. Right? A test kit will allow us to enter doors together again. Even if, like Dr. Dhawan said, even if it's only 50% accurate, that's better than not doing anything at all. But those test kits, they can buy them in high volume and send them to us. And we can, and NetKit knows this because we've read the prices. We know that they can send you a monthly test kit cheaper than what they were sending the $300 for. So, but I agree with you, Bill. We have to do something. So I'm glad that they're putting a stimulus package out there. But my question is when that money was put into stimulation, it should have kept going for at least 3 months.
You're right.
And it didn't.
I know, and you're absolutely right, because that's where there were too many hands in the cookie jar, and there was nobody watching who's going into the kitchen. And that is a direct function of leadership. So, for example, by contrast, when we, the American taxpayers, bailed out Detroit, we took shares in the company. When we bailed out AIG, we took shares in the company and we actually monitored it. And then we had an inspector general to go in and who could do audits and make sure where we got, where our stuff is. This was just a blank check. Here's the money. Go spend it. We're going to stick it in the economy. And that's when everybody said, oh, look, free money. And then you name it. Because if there's an angle, there's an entrepreneur in the United States that will go find it. And they'll find a loophole and they'll do whatever it is. And that's what you did. And you're absolutely right about that, Kimberly. The graft, the corruption, etc. Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say that one of the things that happened, at least this is my observation, is that you're right, Kimberly. A lot of folks got the money and they used the money sometimes for survival, sometimes for frivolous reasons, whatever those frivolous reasons might have been and everything. But then a number of businesses, both small and large, also got money as well. And I did not really see a lot of regulations as to how that money was controlled. So that's one of the things that fell apart on my part that I saw, is that, you're giving these money to small and large businesses who have furloughed people, but there was no kind of like rules as to how they were going to bring back their people, or if they even had to bring back their people into the office and everything. So a number of folks did collect their money, use the money for whatever reasons they used it. And I didn't see enough regulations or regulatory kind of things in order for there to be a relationship between those in what I would call middle management and those on the worker side. So that's just some of the things that I observed. And I was wondering if you saw that on a national front, Bill, because like I said, I'm just speaking from what I observed here in Durham, North Carolina, USA. But I was wondering if you saw that also on a national front.
Well, yes, and you're correct in pointing out the trends, and certainly the trends that you're seeing are reflected in the national discourse and across the country and various other communities. So you're absolutely right about that. Kim?
Yes, and I think what I'm going to do is this is a beautiful subject that we need to take up on another day when we have more time. We want to thank all the viewers for watching us. The beautiful conversations and deep conversations that we have had about health today, how to protect our eyes, how to protect our families and loved ones, and how we can continue to survive this so that we can live and to survive another day, as we would say, live and let live. And, thank you, Bill, for your tremendous insight and update. Nick, thank you for your cheers and claps and toys. And Mark, thank you so much for bringing in your insights and beautiful guests that you've also been sharing with us. But folks, watch Financial Fridays. It is on right now. We thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. And let's wrap for the day.
Sounds good.
Wrap.